got that blue trophy next to their name. There are 3 open spots available here. So we're about to start to see it get a little bit fruity here, John. So it's been nice and content. They've been in a nice straight line. They've been working together. All of a sudden, it's going to be all out on the road. It's going to be like a battle royale Daytona style, and it will be the last 3 standing, I would imagine. Oh, here we go. Oh, big move. 97. Oh, that's terrible from the 97. That's a huge mistake from the 97. IFL Dano. Oh, there is the big one. Well, that's half the field taken out here. IFL Dano then, he's run up high and ultimately made a mistake. He's left the door wide open up the inside, and I'm not too sure who it was behind him. It might have been Basilon, the number 22. It could well have been Basilon in the number 22. Again, I'm going to have to get that checked out once again. He's seized the opportunity by seeing the hole open. Of course, if you see a chance to move up the order and then leave a driver on the high side on their own, they're going to drop down to the back of the order. It's almost their race over. IFL Dano then tried to be really greedy and recapture that position, and ultimately just driven down on him. So yeah, really poor from someone who's been a stalwart this season so far. IFL Dano making a huge mistake there.
And I'm sure you can all guess what I'm about to say next. We have a Quantum Pay replay of the big crash at Tona. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened in this race so far. This is from the point of view of Bisayon indeed, and oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, for sure. You can see that IFL Dano's made the mistake. The door was open. He has every opportunity to go in there. And really, it's kind of a 50-50 there. It was kind of not really wide enough unless you use the yellow line or below. And with that cambered part of the circuit, you can't go on the apron there. It just completely kick you with the rear of your car out right, and you're basically going to be flipping. It's going to be like Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby at that point. Ultimately, IFL Dano had to kind of take his medicine in that situation and just leave the door open a bit wider. They both got involved in an accident, and everyone else behind is just kind of like, oh, you know, they probably had half a second to react, and in that half a second they're like, oh no, oh, this is happening, this is, oh, yeah. Race over. It would have felt like about 4 hours, but yeah, their race is done.
Well, speaking of 4 hours, we've got another angle of that crash as well, so let's go ahead and take a look at it from a different point of view. This is more the bird's eye view here. I think, you know what, no one touched the yellow line until after the contact was made. I would argue there was enough room there. I don't feel like Bisayon did that much wrong.
You've got to hold a very tight line. You have to hold a car's width of the line. He's the one who has checked up a little bit. IFL Dano ultimately was the one that made the mistake, but yeah, I think it's just scrappy from both drivers, really.
Sure.
You know, those two are at fault, and ultimately there's a lot of people's G challenges over now because of that. It was something that was avoidable. Is it something that happens at Daytona all the time?
Oh yeah.
Is it something that happens in oval racing all the time?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So it is what it is. We chalk it up to it being a Tona race. But the front 6, they're not too worried about it right now. And the front 6 here, ladies and gentlemen, none of them have qualified as of yet. So half of these drivers are going to make it through to our semi-finals next week. We've got 4 to go.
And there we go, crumbing across the line next to make it 4 laps to go. At the moment, it's Valero Caruana and McKeown in those podium positions. I am all eyes on number 76, Vincent Balodel. Is he going to find a way to get past, pip him to the post, and try and make it onto the podium? And you've also then got the 2 cars behind him as well. That's Kluna and Grzegorz. Any of these drivers could make it through, but the one I'm looking at is Balodel.
Yeah, he's in the prime position. You know, I think the one person who's not in a very good position right now is Valero, in my opinion. Like, he's the one who really cannot do anything other than just drive flat out. He hasn't got any choices. It is just hold the low line.
He can get past, though. That's fine, right? Like, it's top 3. He doesn't have to win.
No, but if the 5 cars all decide to go together around the high side, and he doesn't block them off in time, he's the one who's going to lose out. He is literally the only one in a pretty bad position right now. And as you can see here, he is potentially going to use a back marker. So this is something that happens in the world of NASCAR. So a back marker now has got involved here. So Valero effectively is not the lead car anymore. Sorry, hold on. No, Valera is the lead car. Who just closed up? Sorry, it's the number 3. So Caruana just closed up and pushed him along. Sorry, it looked like a backmarker just got involved there. That is something that can happen. They can indeed, the backmarkers don't have to get out of the way. They can get involved in the race. They're a lap down. They won't get the spoils. But as you can see, they're threading the needle. That's not ideal. Again, they just forced a backmarker, the purple car there, to make a decision and go onto the apron. That could have been all of them cleaned out.
Right.
So that's how much momentum is. Look how much faster they're going here. Again, the car may be a little bit damaged, but just momentum by working in a group of cars makes it so difficult for anyone to catch up. And you see one of the back markers just trying to hang on to the back of this 6. I think he might be all right here, actually. So here we go then. We are now heading on to the final couple of laps of this race. Across the line we go. We're on lap 24 of 25. We're now going to start to see them go too wide. And well, can Valero hang on? Valero, Caruana, and McKeown. Those are the top 3. They've been the fastest 3 thus far in this G Challenge coming to this point. I'll tell you what, they are streaking away. The group behind are trying to work together 2 by 2. But as you can see here, Valero's still leading out, and they're all pushing each other here. Oh, no, he's pushed too hard. Valero's out. Valero's G Challenge is done and dusted. Caruana's got too close. McKeown now takes the lead in this race. He holds the high line here, but because of that contact, now all of a sudden it gets really spicy. So the 3 cars behind are really closing up. Valero has led for 24 laps, and that is his G Challenge over. The white flag will pop out now here at Daytona, and it is going to be Caruana and McKeown. That are the 2 lead drivers. There it is. McKeown does take the lead. Cluna that is in 3rd position. Gregors is in 4th. We've then got Bilaldo in 5th position. Did Valero manage to hold on to a P6? Has he got back up to the... He has. I think I don't know if he's actually survived that. Imagine if he had done. But we have got no time to be worried about that right now. It comes down to these 5 drivers here. Who's going to get those top 3 positions? McKeown, Caruana, Holger Cluna are in those prime positions. The back marker gets involved here. And well, you were saying to look out for him. Bilaldo is going to have a very good run here. Top 3 are just about clear. Bilaldo's found a little bit of room on the inside. He's getting squeezed down onto the apron. There is a big one. Bilaldo then is pit maneuvered. P3. So Cluna's now out of this. As we come across the line, then it's going to be nip and tuck for the positions here. But I think you'll find that it is going to be McKeown, Caruana, and Bilaldo. Bilaldo, I don't think, did too much wrong there. I think, indeed, Cluna's driven down on him. But what a frantic last couple of laps that was. Woo.
Oh, my. Literally on the last lap, Bilaldo manages to sneak in that podium finish. Bear in mind, a serious pace in that car, despite being involved very early doors in an incident, which is fantastic. The problem is overtaking Armstrong, even if he does it this lap and makes it super clean, still puts him 2 positions away from automatic qualification to the semifinals next week. He then needs to find a way past Norbert Leitner and James Pinsker. And as we know, Pinsker is so far up the road right now that, yes, I'd love to see it teed up, but it's looking close to impossible.
Yeah, definitely. You see here that Simon's trying to square Armstrong up here. Armstrong definitely not got the pace to keep Simon at bay. Simon, though, a little bit too close on the exit of the S's here. Armstrong moves to the defensive line as soon as possible. And now you see there's just going to be squeezing Simon out wide here. And you can see he turns in very early, does Armstrong. Simon does get the job done. Shadbolt is, well, by the end of this race, is going to be running out of incident points. So you might not even see him cross the line. But just to talk about the future of this competition, Berryman and Johan Haaf, they automatically, for me, become one of the favourites to win this championship. It's as simple as that. You've got to take into account Martin van Loozenhoort as well. And for me, Brandon Hawkin. Like, those are the 4 to beat right now.
Oh, Brandon's been imperious, hasn't he, all challenge long. I mean, it feels like everything he shows up to, he wins. Absolutely incredible. But yeah, Berryman and Haaf right now are showing us a masterclass.
Big spin.
Oh, God!
Oh, there's the tyres. Oh, dear. Well, I said Shadbolt might not finish and cross the line because of some incident points, but he's not going to finish because of some contact there. And he just gets crossed up. Armstrong's just turned in with a bit too much power. The rear of the car's gone, nope, I'm not going like that. The front wheels are like, yeah, I'm up for that, that's fine. But the rear of the car's like, nope, not today. And ultimately, it gets crossed up, just keeps the power pinned. And by the time he releases the accelerator, it's already too late, the car's gone. Unfortunately, Shadbolt was a passenger there as well. And, these cars are very tough to drive on lap 1, lap 2, when the tyres are in pristine condition, let's say. But lap 12, lap 13, oh boy, they are just such a challenge. So yeah, like you said earlier, what we need is, if you want someone from outside the top 3 to qualify, is a mistake. And with the nature of the tyres in this car, that is a distinct possibility, as we've just seen.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a Quantum Pay replay of that crash. We were talking about how Shadbolt was running out of incident points. What we didn't realize is that it was an incident that ends up ruining his race. Let's take a look at what happened there. Oh, hang on. I think we've got a replay. There we go.
Here we go then. So here is your replay. And yeah, so we're coming up towards to set yourself up. Oh, and he just dropped it on the curb on the outside. So he hasn't, he's just tried turning the car too early, if that makes sense. He just tried to turn it a little bit too early. The angle was a bit too acute. And unfortunately, the car was like, yep, not today. And the car spins around. A poor Shadbolt was involved in that as well. So if we look here on board with the front two, they have not looked in jeopardy at all here. Wonder if they might just have a little bit of fun. Might have a little bit of fun on the last lap, but yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Peter Berryman is definitely not the mayor of Funtown, so he'll probably just try and get this done as soon as possible.
Oh, that's a pity. I'd love to see them fight it from the back of the grid. We need we need some reverse grids here to make this particularly interesting.
Well, the semi-finals. Semi-finals, the final is going to be like a reverse grid every single race, remember? Because every single driver is at top level. So, yeah, we're going to basically, the grid, you know, we see maybe a couple of seconds between first and last in terms of qualifying, but when it comes to next week in the semi-finals and then moving further on into the finals, like the times are going to be half a second, maybe a little bit more than that. It's going to be super, super tight. So, yeah, take your breaks now. While it's nice and placid here, and it's almost guaranteed who's qualifying, next week, me and you are going to be in a corner rocking back and forth after the weekend, I think. Just in absolute mess. No voices. Like, if anybody wants us to sing Christmas carols this Christmas, don't bank on me and John.
No, I charge extra for that under normal circumstances, and that's when I can do it. Absolutely not.
You were my Christmas present last year. My partner spent a fortune. John just turned up at my door in a bow tie only, singing Christmas carols.
Do you know how long I was trapped in that cake before I was allowed to pop out? I mean, it was a difficult 4 hours. That's all I'm saying.
I could tell it was a long time, John, when you stood in front of me. But anyway, back onto the racing.
Oh, dearie me. There's absolutely no give and take between these. You can see how they're almost flicking the car in to get the maximum possible radius into the final corner. That does get you more speed, but you do have to execute that with absolute extreme precision. And a tiniest bit wrong there, you set one wheel wrong, and what happens to you is similar to what happened to James Armstrong earlier on in the race, unfortunately, when he sent himself down the pecking order along with a couple of other cars as well. Tamas Shimon up to P5 now, an extremely credible performance from him here. And I get the feeling this might be a little bit of showboating from the front too, rather than a serious attempt at an overtake. Berryman and Haas know they're on the final lap with a big gap. They are going to be going through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, proper showboat in there on the back straight. It'd be horrendous now to see one of them end up in a wall because of that, wouldn't it?
Oh, no.
But no, by the looks of things, I don't think they're going to battle too hard here. Again, in formation, like they're the red arrows down, indeed, towards turn number 4 and 5. But yeah, as we get a beautiful blimp cam, good old blimpy boy, we've got 2 corners remaining here at Interlagos, and Berryman has looked super, super quick. But I tell you what, Johan Half had to do a bit of work to catch up to be as close as he is to Berryman. So when it comes to the semi-finals and the final, they're going to be racing, that is for sure. Around the final curve, we will come using the pit lane here. Half, is he going to try and drag into the line? Not quite going to work out. But Berryman, Half, teammates are going to qualify for our semi-finals. What about Pinsker? I think Pinsker's going to be the 3rd driver to go through as well. But really it is about these two. And for me, instantly, they become, 2 of the 5 favourites to take the whole title. Not just the regional semis, the whole title.
They're allowed to do that now.
Again, very similarly to what we've seen already in terms of the open wheel. James Baldwin goes out and wins this race. He, for me, automatically becomes one of the sort of top 5 favourites to not only win the region, but the whole competition.
Interesting fight happening on track at the moment. Niels van der Koekel has been within 0.3 of a second of Leo Rice. That's the battle between 6th and 7th place for the good part of a full lap now. So I'm wondering if van der Koekel is looking for an opportunity to judge a pass. We can see them on screen now. Look at how close he's been following. I've been checking out the times and the splits between these 2 cars. Van der Koekel is living in the rear wing of Leo Rice right now, and Rice must be sweating bullets. Van der Koekel keeps trying to get a word in edgeways, and my God, that was close to contact.
Yeah, Koekel there perfectly on the brakes, and Rice as well was perfectly able to squeeze Van der Koekel, because if he left the door open any wider, Koekel makes that move, no problem whatsoever. We still see then down the Wellington straight, Koekel still very, very close indeed. Not quite close enough to make a dive, I wouldn't imagine. If he does, they would both end up into the gravel, that's for sure. Bit of a mistake there by Rice, but again, that's more to do with opening up the corner, so not necessarily a mistake. There's multiple different lines around such a technical circuit such as this. But I'll tell you what, yeah, it definitely was a mistake then, because he's been closed up by Van der Kukel. As we come then around this right-hander, Van der Kukel is as close as he has been all race long. Again, just trying to sort of get into the right side mirror there of Rice, just to play with him a little bit. But as we come up towards Magnus and Beckett's here, you're going to see Van der Kukel potentially just let that gap go out a little bit more, let it increase as they come through here. There you go. So the gap's increasing, and then he'll be looking for an incredible exit up towards Stowe. So you should see him close back up here. And has he worked this out perfectly? So they're going to come through the right-hand kink or the left-hand kink.
It's not
right
bad
for us. No, it's a really good exit, but I don't think it's quite good enough. He's got 5 minutes 30 seconds here to indeed try and do that again, but it was perfect, really. Ultimately, just didn't get on the power early enough onto the hangar straight. So I'll tell you what, though, he's close here. This will be a dive if he doesn't defend the inside line. Van der Kukel then round the outside. You can see that Rice is going to squeeze Van der Kukel there on the exit, and perfectly judged there by Race. Never really forcing Van der Kukel onto a grass or anything there. Had the advantage, and indeed Julie kept hold of it. And actually, we've done a full lap with these now. It looks like the gaps are just, I'd say it's a little bit bigger, but ultimately half a tenth or, you know, a couple of hundredths between these two is always going to be welcomed by Race as it stands. But yeah, Race still in that P6. Neither of them are near the top 3, unfortunately for them. Baldwin, Statsenko, and Chris McDade, they're looking very good. Actually, Taras is very close to McDade again, so McDade has not been able to drive away today. Ray Stoke doing exactly what he needs to do. 0.4 of a second it is between the two of them. And again, this is another opportunity here, John. It's to whether he can set up this complex of corners. Van der Kukel perfectly enough to maybe make a move. He closes up nicely. This is where Race made a bit of a mistake. He's done it again here. So you can see the Van der Kukel's just opened up this right-hander a little bit better than in Race. And that means he will be on the power a little bit earlier. He's a lot closer this time round. But Race then, with that mistake, is able to indeed be on the power a little bit earlier through the final part of that complex of corners. So well, here we go. There's a big mistake there. Taras and McDade have had it coming together, I think. Yeah, they have. So McDade then is on the inside here. They're going to go through Magnus and Beckett side by side. So as you can see here, Taras has got contact then with McDade again. So we need to see this in its entirety. And all of a sudden then, Simeon's now closed up. And this may be the opportunity for someone like Race or Van der Kukel. They could potentially close up here. They're not far behind. They're side by side then as Taras tries to indeed hold on to the position that McDade had as they come up towards Stowe. McDade's going to sweep it around the outside. He's going to hope now Taras runs wide and then go underneath him. He's not quite close enough there, but yeah, there was definitely contact twice there for sure. McDade then fakes to go up the inside and now opens up the outside. Taras is going to be late on the brakes there. Almost contact between the two of them. Door being left wide open. Then Simeon is going to be on the inside then of McDade. McDade's got to pinch him onto the apex then. Oh, brilliant from both of them. And Simeon, I think, is going to gain that position here. Taras is being given a bit of a freebie then because of these two as we come through that sweeping right-hander. Brilliant stuff there. That is turn 1 for the F1 circuit, but this is the middle of the circuit for our GT drivers here. And McDade is just about going to hang on to P4, but he's going to be furious he's not in P3. And again, it'd be nice to see what sparked that little excursion between the two of them. There's only half a second between Taras and McDade. With 2 minutes 40 seconds to go, there's more than that now, and Taras is in P3.
An absolutely delightful race so far. Two very, very strong fights going on here. We first looked at Race and Van der Kukel what feels like a lifetime ago, where I want to say Van der Kukel, if he manages to maybe let off the gas a little bit going into club to try to get the undercut onto Race for 2 laps in a row, he stayed alongside, and that's where he lost the 2 or 3 tenths out going on to the start and finish straight. So I wonder if Van der Kukel's going to do something different there. But then absolutely fantastic as well between McDade and Taras, and that's for the all-important P3 position as well. Really, really delightful stuff from all of these drivers. And considering that the front two are frankly running away with it right now, it's good to see so much action up and down the field.
Yeah, but it has to be. Taras has to take a chance. McDade has to take a chance. You know, this is the final opportunity. There's 1 minute 44 seconds left of this race, and whoever finishes in that top 3, they're through. You know, it's as simple as that. I told you there's going to be some chances taken. I told you there's going to be some moves and shakes, and well, this final lap that we're about to embark upon is going to be fireworks all over the place, although McDade makes a huge error there, and we've seen him run off the circuit on the previous lap, and it takes a couple of laps for the tyres to get back into a good range, and ultimately we're seeing him struggle there with grip as he runs side by side with Simeon as well, and I think Simeon might have got him.
We've got a Quantum Pay replay here as well of that earlier move. Chris McDade and Taras. Let's take a look at what went on here.
Yeah, Taras is just sent it on the inside. He had no right to make that move, I'm afraid. If he'd managed to indeed keep hold of a car onto the circuit and leave a car's whip from the outside, and maybe even if he ran onto the curb, Taras, you could maybe say, oh, okay, they're right on the limit, they're just battling for position. He's just punted McDade off the circuit, and he ran off the circuit as well. So
I like what McDade did afterwards, though. He went off the circuit, and he clearly could have rejoined the circuit with a speed advantage to Taras, and he went, even though that might have happened earlier, McDade actually slowed the car down a little bit and made sure that Taras kept the track position when he rejoined the track. So that was nice of him, at least.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that's ultimately one of McDade's biggest faults. If there is such a thing with him, he is far too nice on the race circuit. He could be a little bit more aggressive. He chooses not to, and that's why he's one of the most liked around, to be honest. He's very, very quick, but ultimately, yeah, he can be a little bit too nice. I'm not saying he should have just jumped on there and took the driver out. That was the perfect execution there. That's what you expect from every driver, really.
Sure, of course.
But in other situations where he could squeeze someone, or he could, send someone onto a curb, for instance, he just chooses not to. So I think, he was always going to yield from that spot.
And well, Baldwin and Statsenko out in front. I have a feeling they are not super strongly racing each other right now. They know that they are through. An absolutely delightful drive from James Baldwin. Mikhail Statsenko, though, in P2. Absolutely wonderful drive from lights the flag from him. These two are going to be very happy with themselves today.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether over the last half a lap, Statsenko might just have a go here, just to kind of let Baldwin know that, oh, hold on, maybe there's a new kid on the block here.
Oh,
I'm not sure he's quite close enough, but yeah, I'm not sure if I think Baldwin may have just kept him at arm's length more than anything, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, this is perfect for both of them. They're both through. They don't care. They have no idea the carnage has gone on behind them, ultimately. Taras in P3 as it stands. Again, it'll be a provisional result. I think that will be looked at for sure. But these two, again, don't have to worry about it. A few corners to go here. James Baldwin, who just wins and wins and wins and wins and
That's
wins.
what he does.
And then on Sundays, he does it twice. But here on Friday, James Baldwin, first attempt at qualifying for the semi-finals in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. And James Baldwin will indeed progress to the semi-finals.
Fantastic. So have a little bit of a wiggle there. He knows what he has done. Absolutely delightful race from James Baldwin. Mikhail Statsenko, though, just behind him. Yes, Baldwin was driving within himself and was comfortably holding him off, but Statsenko also didn't put a wheel wrong and managed to keep up to Baldwin the entire race as well. Victor Taras.
プロフェッショナルドリフトドライバーの田口和也です。ドリフトって非日常的な車の動きをしているので、見ているお客様を楽しませられるっていうのがドリフトの魅力だと思っています。決して安全ではない、一歩間違えばクラッシュになってしまうっていう危険と隣り合わせの興奮っていうのが非常に自分自身で運転している中では魅力でありますね。 プロレースの会場だと普段は一般道として使われている普通の道でレースをすることがあるんですけど、物理的にそういったところでは練習をすることができないんです。なので僕は事前にシミュレーターでトレーニングをしてます。いかに自分が掴んでいるステアリング、そしてペダル、さらにはシフトが今車がどのような動きをしているかをどのくらい伝えてくれるかっていうのが非常に重要なんですけど、 G923 はステアリングを通して車の動きのフィードバックをリアルに伝えてくれるので、トレーニングに重宝しています。ドリフトのスタートは日本の方が先で、アメリカは後からドリフトがスタートしたんですけど、今となってはもう完全にアメリカではプロフェッショナルのモータースポーツになっていて、ドライバーだけではなくてチーム、監督、メカニック、そしてオーディエンス、お客さんも全てがみんなプロなんですよね。日本人としてアメリカのドリフトシーンで活躍することによって、母国日本のドリフトモータースポーツカテゴリーももっともっと盛り上がってメジャーになっていってくれればいいなというふうに思ってます。G923 は僕にとっては欠かせない存在ですね。
I'm ready to go. Feeling like a million eyes on me. I'm unstoppable. If you go against me, then you better compete. Yeah, yeah. Why you keep knocking at my door? Came to fight, yeah, that means war. Gotta level up, wanna settle the score. Yeah, feels a lot better than it did before. What you brand new, yeah, it's time to go pro. Go beast mode, better find a cheat code. On my throne, now I'm in my zone. Man, it looks better than it did before. I said if they don't stop, just do your thing, and you know you gon' be on top. It's my game, it's your game, and let the whole world watch. I said if they don't stop, just keep it going, and you know you gon' be on top. It's my game, it's your game. Go ahead, let them talk.
Am I allowed in here? Normally I'm behind the wheel. The beauty of esports is that anyone can experience the adrenaline of Formula One for themselves. Just grab a gaming setup, put it onto drive, and let the data guide and help. Hi, I'm Landon Norris, and you're about to experience the art of data.
I think the biggest advantage of the G923 for me is just how realistic it is. The feedback that you get as soon as you plug it in, it was pure enjoyment as soon as I started driving. This is kind of the closest I can get to accessing that adrenaline and emotion of being on a gravel rally stage in Finland and flying over those crests. For me, it's about getting as real as I can to the environment that I race in, and obviously the wheel is the best instrument for that.
If you seek greatness, let nothing stand between you and the win. Zero distraction. Zero doubt. Zero opposition.
Welcome to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge Round 5. This is the last month players have to qualify directly into the semi-finals, so the pressure is on. We saw the EMEA region earlier on, and now we're going to be doing exactly the same thing over in Asia Pacific. I'm your host, John Sargent, and with me, as always, is Luke Crane. Luke, hello, welcome. It's now Saturday, a different day from when we first said hello earlier this evening, but I'm looking forward to the races today, especially if they are anywhere near as good as what we've seen already.
Well, as you can tell by my face, it feels like it's a different day as well. So that's always great. Yeah, so this should be fun from start to finish. Just like EMEA, really, the APAC drivers just need to kind of take a leaf out of their book and leave nothing out there on the circuit. Have no regrets, move on, and try and get yourself into those semi-finals next week.
Now, let's get straight into the format and discuss what our viewers are expecting to see today on the broadcast. How today's race is going to go down, Luke?
Well, hopefully well. But yeah, first and foremost, we've got qualifying for each race. The iRacing races, which is the Stock Car and Open will both be 5 minutes only and lone qualifying. What that means is they will be out on circuit on their own. So they won't be able to gain any tow from any other car. They will not be able to intervene with any other cars either. On ACC, it will indeed be 10 minutes qualifying, but they can impede each other effectively. Obviously, that's not the aim of the game. It's not a battle royale. This is not team deathmatch or anything like that. It is ultimately, you can gain a tow from the car in front of you, or, if someone makes a mistake in front of you, ultimately you could lose a load of time as well. In terms of the race, the players are all awarded points from first down to 30th. But it is all about getting those top 3 positions. You get those top 3 positions, and you are golden. You're through to the semi-finals.
Exactly right. There are no more chances after this as well, because next week is the semi-finals. So the drivers have been competing here for the last 5 months just to qualify for this very moment. The top 3 this weekend will move on automatically, of course. And if you didn't get top 3, hopefully you've accumulated enough points over the course of the season to qualify for next week.
Absolutely. Again, it's like a different kind of challenge within the Logitech McLaren G challenge. You've raced against very different people in terms of people who've not qualified, and maybe it's a little bit easier at this stage of the competition. It's not easy to qualify, that's for sure, but it's maybe a little bit easier because it's only going to get harder. You're going to be racing against the very best of the competition so far if you want to move forward to the grand finals weekend.
Yeah, so all coming down to the wire here at the G Challenge. Place top 3 or get enough points. But moving on to today's races, they're going to be taking place across 3 very different tracks and feature extremely different styles of racing. What are we looking at today?
Well, first of all, we are in the NASCAR Cup Series Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 at Daytona International Speedway, and it is like a shot of caffeine. Oh man, this is going to be incredible if EMEA was anything to go by. In race 2, then we've got the open wheel Dallara IR01 at Interlagos Circuit. I don't think we're going to see what we saw with EMEA, where a couple of drivers run away with it. I think this one could be frantic and super exciting. And in race number 3, we're in the Sports Car Challenge. We're in the McLaren 720S GT3, and we are at the home of racing. A track that I never really enjoyed or liked, to be honest. And then I went to the circuit and worked there a few times, and now I'm absolutely love it. It's Silverstone Circuit.
I must be one of the only people on the planet who prefer the old layout to the new one post-renovation in the late 2000s, but I'm sure we can talk about that during the race. I'm really looking forward to the sports car race there. It's always fantastic racing around Silverstone, no matter what, that is for sure. But over the last month, hundreds of racers were attempting to qualify for their chance to be featured on today's broadcast. But only the top drivers can make it to today's show. So taking a look at what we've got, starting with stock car, Luke, who should we be watching out for later?
Well, there's a visual representation. Anyone with a blue trophy next to their name, they are golden. They are through to the semi-finals already. But historically, we've seen through this region, they do tend to turn up every single month. So the whole gang are really back for this one. We've already qualified drivers Matt Danson, Graham Bunyan, Robert Mason, Travis McDaniel, Barry Neal, and Reese McGillivray that are all back to showcase their skill set, along with Japanese driver Yuki Furuya, who has been here every single month, but yet to get that top 3 position. Is Daytona the theatre as to which he qualifies? Well, we're about to find out. With so many new drivers appearing this month, expect this to be a scrappy and incident-filled for that top 3. Effectively, everybody's going to be leaving it out there on the circuit. Maybe there's going to be parts on the infield, who knows? But all I can tell you right now, this is going to be interesting. And once today's done, there's no other chance of qualifying through to the semi-finals via this method. Onto the Open Wheel Challenge then. Top 3 qualifiers this month are all already booked into our semi-finals. Those drivers being Josh Perwin, Jaden Ladich, and Chris Aoun. Jared Sajkovic, he is back for a second appearance as 4th seed. Was pretty disappointing in the race last time out, considering he showed extreme pace in the qualifying phase, but another chance to indeed get themselves involved. The story of this one, though, is very much the same as the Stock Car Challenge, with there being so many new names here. It could be a real race of opportunity, and like EMEA, maybe some new favourites will rear their head a week out from the semi-finals. Finally, we head to Silverstone then for the Sports Car Challenge, and Philippa Bukida, Connor Davis and Ryan Houlihan are back once again. But the biggest surprise is a new name on top of the qualifying standings. It is Indonesian driver Avila Bahar. Could Avila make it a one-and-done semi-final? We've seen it a couple of times already, remember, and book their place to the semi-finals. We know the already qualified contingent will have something to say about that, that's for sure. Also, keep an eye out on Ferris Stanley and Cy Prithvi. Also, James Baldwin's Australian cousin, Jake Baldwin. It is a final chance to book their ticket to the semi-finals. All I expect from each driver is to leave it all out there and have zero regrets. Nothing worse than on Monday at work thinking, I could have done this or should have done that. No time for shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's all about the going to do it, doing it, and done it. Oh, it's APAC, baby. Let's get it on.
And after this, we then move into qualifying. And I mean, talking about leaving it all out on track, this is Daytona International. We were asking ourselves before the EMEA broadcast, what's going to happen as far as leaving it all out on track at Daytona? And my God, did this track deliver. It was action-packed from start to finish.
You are the poshest commentator ever. You just called Daytona. That is...
Daytona.
Oh, you called it the Tona. Sorry, I thought you called it Daytona.
No, it's not D' Tona. We could do that as well, though. That sounds very posh.
I just had my tea and crumpets at Daytona.
At the Daytona. Now, if you at home, if you're looking to try and squeeze a couple of thousands off your lap time at Daytona, because trust me, a couple of thousands is basically what separates the best drivers here, then look no further. We've taken a look a little bit at the history of the circuit and some of the interesting characteristics, such as Luke will tell you, going 27 wide at the start. Let's see what we managed to uncover. The Daytona International Speedway is home to the Daytona 500, the opening event and the most prestigious race in NASCAR. It is one of the most well-known ovals on the planet. Let's get stuck in. Even though you want to be hugging the inside line at Daytona as much as possible, you might want to consider starting your session on the higher line and building up speed, because it takes quite a while to get to full speed on Daytona, and every bit of momentum will count. Keep an eye out for end of race overtakes as well. A lot of final lap overtakes happen coming out of turn 4 because cars are just able to get their noses in front by the finish line. Remember, anyone can race, and you could be in our monthly round races broadcast on Twitch with a shot at making it to the grand finals where you could win money can't buy prizes. Visit logitechgchallenge.com to enter and see you on track. Two minutes and change left in qualifying at Daytona. Looking forward to seeing who is going to be able to come up with the goods here. At the moment, no surprise about all of the drivers within a couple of tenths of each other, and I would expect that to close even further by the end of the session.
Yeah, 100%. Again, a couple of tenths around a circuit like this is actually quite a big margin. We've got Graham Bunyan in the number 69. Nice, leading the way. What he was, it's now Stuart Anderson. It's Anderson in the number 253. It's just posted a 48.915, a hundredth of a second clear of Graham Bunyan. Oh, an absolute age.
Very, very close at the top. I'm looking forward to seeing how many cars we can get within a tenth of each other. And I'm expecting in North America At least, not that we're biased or anything. We're expecting to, frankly, see the top 15 within a 10th or something like that. It's going to be absolutely insane. 48.9s at the moment, at least 6 cars in that range. So very, very tight, the margins here. And it all comes down to a combination of racecraft and knowing when to pounce, along with precision and minimizing those mistakes. We saw earlier at Daytona, but to be honest, in previous months of the G Challenge as well, literally the tiniest turn of a wheel and the smallest mistake can lead to catastrophic consequences further back in the field.
Yeah, it's all about millimeters. It's all about milliseconds. It is just the smallest of margins with the biggest of cars, really. Stuart Anderson, as you can see, is only 100th of a second clear. But as you're looking all the way down the order here, what are they? They're within, the top 14 are within that 10th of a second. So that's got you all excited, John. I can assure you that. Yuki Furuya, last opportunity for Yuki Furuya, still out there on circuit, yet to put a lap time in. Daytona qualifying isn't really the be-all and end-all. You can, 25 laps, you can work your way to the front here. But Yuki Furuya, we've expected to see Yuki in the top 3 at least once over the last 4 months. And 5th month lucky, maybe, but just not. Maybe deciding just to go from the back and hope it's a bit of a mean start here at Daytona. Who knows? But yeah, I'm a bit surprised. Yuki Furuya just every single month kind of throws something up like a spanner in the works themselves, really, in their pursuit of qualifying. And yeah, will be P18, unfortunately, for Yuki with no lap time. Was there a lap time posted right at the death there? I don't know. But yeah, making it hard work for sure.
They are the spanner in the works. This is going to be very interesting indeed as we head into shortly going to be finalizing our qualifying order here at Daytona International. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the track conditions. Ooh, a little bit of a slight change here. We have the track temperature marginally over 40 degrees. Don't worry, that last half a degree isn't going to make too much of a difference at all. Ambient temperature here just a shade above 25 degrees Celsius. Nice and toasty. A light breeze and cloudy weather will ensure some decent conditions for some excellent racing that we'll be going in with in just a second.
Yeah, I don't want to kick you way down, John, but half a degree track temperature will actually make a pretty big difference.
Oh, we're going to see absolute carnage then.
Especially around here with the tires, it will just chew them up. Like when we race,
they'll start screaming a quarter of a lap earlier.
Yeah, but when we do our races here with like our 24-hour and stuff, like the difference between 5 degrees is, sometimes 4 seconds. It's crazy. Anyway, onto the grid.
All right, so Matt Danson is going to be taking pole position, and that is alongside Stuart Anderson, who was provisional pole early on. So Matt Danson able to pivot to the post. Graham Bunyan and James Scott will be taking row 2 of the grid. Darren B, I love the DJ names, coming out alongside Michael Berta in 5th and 6th, respectively. Connor Healy, Barry Neal, Isaac Nichols, and Craig Corbett will make up your top 10.
Yeah, after that, then we have indeed got Matthew Smith, Jeff Newton, Stephen Butcher. We've got then Reese MC, Wade Sheedy, Peter R, Max Riley, Yuki Furuya, and Ray Naldi Ido. Interesting here, 19 drivers. Are we going to see a sensational race like we saw earlier on for the EMEA region? I think we will, but I'm expecting to see this race maybe not start as cleanly.
Maybe I think this could bode well for Reese MC whenever I see those names. It's not the first time, of course, you've seen Reese McGillivray here, but and he's already qualified, of course, for the semi-finals. But every time I see Reese MC, I'm just rooting for him. That's the fantastic way to display the in-game name there.
Yeah, for sure. It makes it easy for me to say anyway. What have we doing this 3 months and probably said it right maybe once. So Reese MC will do me.
Look, Luke, even a stop clock, mate. That's all I'm saying. You get all the points.
Absolutely. Right, we're just waiting for the pace car here. It would appear that Bernd Mailander is having his lunch in the pace car. Until he finishes his cheese and pickle sandwich, we are going absolutely nowhere. There we go, cheese and pickle sandwich eaten. Now it's time for a full lap here of Daytona, then 25 laps of frantic action. Oh boy, this is going to be super, super exciting, that's for sure.
And we should clarify, because at the end of the day, this is APAC. When Luke says cheese and pickle, we don't mean cheese and a couple of gherkins, okay? That would be weird. We're talking about we're talking about the good, decent jar of Branston's kind of thing. And fully get behind a good cheese and pickle sandwich.
Yeah, sorry, I should have should have.
We've got people slicing up gherkins to put between bread and eating them now. Like we've just accidentally started a trend. Got to be careful, man.
He finished his shrimp and salad cream sandwich.
When influencers go wrong. Could happen.
God. Can we tell it's 2:15 a.m.?
Commentate responsibly.
Yeah. Right. On the back straight we come before we go absolutely mad here. Again, all 19 cars making their way down in towards the final turn, the final stretch. Also, you can see an aeroplane just in the top left-hand corner there. If you catch this during the race, they are unbelievably fast. They land like it's until you see it, you can't really understand it, but they land at super pace. It's quite crazy actually. Yeah. And they just continually come through. They'll take off and land and take off and land as we are close to the airport. IRL as well, but yeah, just a nice little fact for you. Right, here we go then. Pace cars coming in as my insanity is on show. And well, we will then get going. And as we saw in the first race of the evening, they will wait right until they get to the line pretty much, because yeah, the more time you give the drivers to indeed catch up, the less time you can stay in front, basically. Anyway, Matt Danson takes us away and takes the green flag. We're here, 25 laps of racing. Actually, it's a superb start, and P2 normally is the better place to be in terms of a rolling start. And P3, I mean, and that is the best position because Graham Bunyan up into P2 as it stands, and they filter into single file relatively quickly here. And actually, it looks like the front four have kind of got away here, and already the second group have got to be very careful indeed.
That gap between the front four and everybody else, we're halfway around lap one. I'm super impressed that that kind of gap can even be allowed to exist at the start of a race. I'm not 100% sure what's going on here, but it felt like everyone else almost was caught napping a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Again, they're going to, oh, there's a big one in the background. There is a big one in the background. I think we're going to be down to 11 cars here. It looked like a huge incident happened there, P12 downwards. Yeah, they've all disappeared. There is a huge crash then. It looks like we've got 12 drivers remaining at the front pack. And yeah, that'll be interesting to dissect in a minute, that's for sure. I knew there was going to be a big one at some point, and I feel like we may have just seen that. The lead, though, is, well, that's James Scott in the number 4. I'm not sure where James is. I think James is, well, P4, so that's the number literally next to his name. Matt Danson's still leading, though, by 0.06 of a second to Graham Bunyan, Anderson, James Scott. We've then got Darren B. Robb, Connor Healy, Isaac Nichols, Matthew Smith, Barry Neal, Stephen Butcher as your top 10. Then we've got Peter R. Jones and Jeff Newton, I think, is at the back of the pack. And actually, if I'm going to be honest here, Stephen Butcher's just dropped off here. The front 9 are really the only drivers in contention early in this race already.
Absolute carnage at Daytona. You called it, Luke. You said it might not actually be quite as clean as what we saw earlier, and Daytona instantly delivered on lap 1. This front pack of 9 cars, essentially at the start of the race, has become the race itself. If anyone manages to catch up to the back of this, I will be flabbergasted. I mean, yes, we have seen it in stock car before, but you're going to have to spend most of the next 25 laps just getting somewhere close to the back of this pack. The race is effectively over, sadly, for everyone who isn't here already.
If a 10th car joins the back of this pack here on the lead lap, I will travel to where you are and spoon you to sleep, John. That is how confident I am of that not happening.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what actually unfolded behind this lead pack. I say lead pack, only pack now in this race. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Quantum Pay replay. In a pack. Hey, I see what we did there. Let's take a look at what popped off here. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, wow. That was, yeah, the blue cars just came down onto the 71. And, well, everyone else was invited to that picnic and they all dined out. That was a big one. So, yeah, again, it'd be nice to see that again, really, a little bit slower, to be honest.
I think we have to see that a little bit slower from about 12 different angles, and even then, we'd only get half the story.
I can't, yeah, I'm wondering whether we could actually see that replay once again. That'd be great. It's kind of, that was very interesting indeed. But there's a number 71 still going, almost crabbing, so not ideal. But the front 3, as it stands, are still Danson, Bunyan, and Stuart Anderson. So Anderson's the only one out of those top 3 that has not qualified yet. Looks like they're working together relatively well. And right now, then, the other 6 cars, they just need to just stay in contention. And like I said earlier, if you're around about the top 8, top 9, top 10, with a couple of laps to go, you've got yourself an opportunity to win this race. So just don't do anything silly. We've already seen one car bump draft another car off the circuit. So if you're
Oh my
Bunyan right
God,
now,
that was
be a
rough.
little bit more careful. He was close to doing exactly the same there, to be fair. He's backed off. I think he realised very quickly that actually that might not be the best of ideas. You know, it's all good trying to break away from the group behind, but it's just so difficult to do so that it really isn't worth the risks, to be completely honest. Like, they've now made it so that basically half the drivers are not involved in this race anymore. So there's 50% chance of getting that podium. You know, it's been increased, of course. So just don't take any chances now. Go in procession. Yeah, it's going to be boring for me and you, John, but they really do need to just chill. Don't don't try and make any silly overtakes. I would be very surprised if this went too wide before lap 21, something like that. I think they will just sit like this and you know, just conserve their, or try and figure out exactly how far they need to be behind someone to beat them over the line. I think you might start seeing that a little bit later on, where they'll sort of pull out and try and figure out exactly how far they need to be, indeed, to overtake the car in front of them.
Frankly, they should absolutely be chilling out, considering that they took out half the field on lap number 1. I think the last thing we need is more action at this point, so a bit of downtime is useful. Let's take another look at the crash at the start of the race that basically defined this outing for half the field. There we go. Let's see if we can get any more of an idea of what went on. It looks like yellow line and losing control for, is that car number 71 there?
No, it wasn't. No, he was dumped down onto the yellow line by the number 888.
Yep.
So the 888 Toasty is come down onto the 71. The number 95 there, Lightning McQueen, is facing the wrong way. That's not ideal. But yeah, then everyone's just trying to scramble to get back on the circuit. Ultimately, it's not going to work out. But yeah, the yellow line only came into play once the number 888 indeed dropped down the pack. So that was Michael Berta who actually dropped down, and Jeff Newton was involved in it. There's Jeff Newton now. He actually just pulled straight off the circuit there. And that is really, really good awareness from Jeff. So yeah, he would be very disappointed with how things have played out, obviously. But you know, ultimately, he's still doing the right things, which is good to see.
So that is, well, that massive first lap incident, which sadly wiped out half the field. I want an excuse for Jeff Newton to catch up to the rear of this field. I don't think it's going to happen. Wishful thinking there for sure. There in 10th place is Stephen Butcher, who is 15 seconds off the back of Matthew Smith. And unfortunately, on lap 9 of 25, with no one around to help him tow back up to this pack, that is going to be that. Nonetheless,
789. 789 are in trouble. They're gone. It's a 6-horse race.
They dropped off. Oh, you're right. Yes, it's now a 2-second gap, unfortunately, between, is it Connor Healy and Isaac Nichols in 6th and 7th. So, well, 9 has just become 6.
Yeah, it looks like there may have been an incident between the 2 green cars and the 3 behind, because the 2 green cars are a little bit detached from the front 4. Again, that's just my deduction there. I could well be wrong, but that's what I would say would have happened. Ultimately, now it becomes a 6-car race. Danson already qualified, of course, and so is Bunyan. So right now, Anderson, Scott, Rob, and Healy. Is Connor Healy qualified? No, he has not. So yeah, the 4 drivers in P3, 4, 5, and 6, they're kind of battling now for 1 qualifying spot. So maybe you're going to see the potential pit maneuvers or a little bit of contact near the end of this race. Accidental, of course. I don't know, maneuvering of P1 and P2 out of the way, if you like. This is going to get fruity. Again, it's going to be, I don't know, we're going to have a pretty placid race. I don't think we're going to have too much excitement going on for the next sort of 10 to maybe 12 laps. But once it gets going, this will burn very bright indeed.
We should explain for the viewers as well, at the end of the day, there are 2 different ways a driver can make it through to next week's semi-finals. You can either place 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in any one of these monthly races, or you can accumulate enough points throughout the competition that you're one of the top 15 points finishers anyway, and you're able to make it through. The problem is some of these drivers might not have been racing in the first 3 or 4 months of this competition, and as a result of that, maybe relying on points alone won't be enough. You have to get, therefore, one of those top 3 podium places in order to guarantee that you make it through to the semi-finals. And for those drivers who aren't returning and are only here for the first time, this is absolutely a do or die scenario. Whereas drivers that we've seen here month in, month out, I actually don't know how many points he has off the top of my head, but I'm going to chance it and say Connor Healy is possibly part of that group, even if they finish outside of the top 3 here, if they get a decent showing, they should still qualify on points.
Yeah, Jeff Newton is the leader of the points scorers, if you like, of drivers who have not qualified. And then you've got Stephen Butcher in 2nd spot. Yuki Furuya is in 4th, so it looks like he's going to be pretty golden to go through. Stuart Anderson, P3 as it stands, will probably get through via the point scoring as well, although he is currently in the top 3 anyway. As for the rest of the drivers, this is it. This is top 3 or not. James Scott, Darren Robb, Connor Healy, those 3 drivers, they have to get it done right now. Connor Healy with a pretty, I don't know, he's got he's currently in the top 50, so he should be okay. But really, if you're looking at James Scott and Darren Robb, they have to get top 3 right.
So the stakes are high. James Scott there having a sniff at Stuart Anderson a little bit later on in the race. On lap 13, we've just passed the halfway point. There's no sense in trying to pull out now. If something doesn't work, and I guarantee as a solo car, it won't, you then end up dropping all the way back. You're looking for cars to potentially work with to try and usurp the podium positions a little bit later on. Now probably isn't the time to do that, though. I think, Luke, you're absolutely spot on. We will see that happen, but I'm thinking maybe lap 21, 22.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit later than that. I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed with this camera, by the way. I've never seen this in iRacing, and this is, yeah, I don't know, whoever's running with that camera is very quick and running backwards, so that's very impressive. But yeah, the top 6 here, they're just going to stay like this as best they possibly can. The only way that the drivers in behind are going to try and make a move is if an opportunity presents itself on the inside, so someone goes on the high side, and then they can make their way up the inside. But that's very unlikely to happen. Maybe a little bit later once the tyres go off a little bit more, but yeah, for the most part, I would imagine it will stay like this until the last couple of laps, and then, well, you've got the apron to utilise, so you'll see some cars go below that yellow line at this stage of the lap, and you may see some cars go around the outside as well. For people like Rob and James Scott, those 2 are going to have to work together at some point and look to push forward. The only problem I'm seeing here, though, is the front 3, they look like they're capable of doing some bump drafting. The 4th, 5th, and 6th, they've never been close enough, really, to do that. It's almost like they're a bit too frightened to get too close to each other. So I'm a bit worried that that might not even be the opportunity anyway.
I mean, maybe. The front 2 seem a lot more, shall we say, I don't want to say coherent, but they seem a lot more comfortable following each other's cars super closely than the cars behind them. Everyone else is leaving a little bit of a respectable gap. Trying not to do things like bump draft. It feels like Danson and Bunyan here are... The way they're driving just gives off the impression they're more chilled out than everyone behind them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, 2 of them have already qualified, so...
Well, that helps.
Yeah, they're going to be a bit more relaxed, that's for sure. So their inputs are going to be a little bit looser, I guess. They're going to be loosey-goosey behind the old rig. But for the rest of them, yeah, it will... they will... Every single input that they put into the wheel or the pedals, they'll be feeling it. That's for sure. As we see then potential for some bump drafting. Here we go. So Bunyan now is getting very close, and there is some contact there between the 2. And that is a case of, look, you know, if it comes to it, we do want to still finish in the top 3, just block anyone else from being able to qualify. Let's start now trying to figure out a way of how we could defend these positions if it does indeed come down to that. As again, you can see him just closing up there, not taking the chance to indeed push on the bend. But now, indeed, as the track does straighten up, he does just give it a little nudge then. So now, with what, 8 laps to go, it'll be 7 the next time they come round. You've got to be looking now at James Scott and Darren Robb at the very least. Connor Healy and Stuart Anderson, you can understand them being a little bit timid in the situation. They're pretty much golden to go through anyway because of the point system. But yeah, James Scott, Darren Robb, they're going to have to make a move at some point. Just wondering, do they quite have that pace?
I think they have the pace to keep up. Whether they have the pace to then launch a move and move up alongside is another matter entirely. They're obviously wanting to do it. Graham Bunyan would love to be able to take the victory here from Matt Danson. If Matt Danson wins this stock car race, Luke, he will end up... this will literally be a clean sweep. He will have won every single stock car race in this year's G Challenge so far. It's hard to look past that when you're thinking about front runners for the semi-finals.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now that's not going to happen, so nice one, John.
Cast a curse, let's go. Level 9,000, I'm ready for this.
I blame Krista and Brian. You know, we're fully aware of the stats, guys, but let's not jinx him. It's too late now, though.
Who else can we jinx? We've got 7 more laps.
It's too late. You've jinxed the one that was, you know, he could have gone 5 for 5.
Oh, don't worry. He'll be here next week anyway. No problem.
He'll be here next week, but, you know, the chance to go 5 for 5, that's, you know, he's Australian as well, so a Pfeiffer. He would have loved a Pfeiffer, to be fair. But again, it's not going to happen now, so we don't need to be worried about it. So it's going to be between Bunyan, Anderson, Scott, Rob, and Healy now. One of those 5 is going to pick up the victory here. How Danson's going to end up in a wall, we don't know, but it will happen.
I love this camera angle as well on board with Bunyan. If you're wondering, taking a look at the sort of helicopter views and you're going, the banking doesn't look that steep. The onboard views from the passenger seat there is excellent, absolutely fantastic, and gives you a little bit of an idea of just how steep this banking actually is. So on board now at the side of Graham Bunyan. We're looking backwards from Graham Bunyan because I've just cast a curse the hell out of Matt Danson, so presumably we'll see him flying off into the distance on this camera shot at some point in the next couple of minutes. Looking pretty chilled out, I have to say. Stuart Anderson behind him, and then there's a bit of a gap back to James Scott, who is currently about a 10.5, 2/10 trailing Anderson for that final podium spot.
Yeah, we basically just ignored Danson at this point. Like, it's done and dusted. There's no chance of him winning this race. But again, look at the front 3. The front 3 are able to follow each other so closely. They're reacting to each other, moving left and right so closely. But 4th, 5th, and 6th are just a bit too far apart from each other. Again, you know, when it gets to the nitty-gritty, when you're having to race within millimeters to try and make positions up later in the race, just not sure whether they're going to be able to cope with that. It remains to be seen. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it. And it's just a case of we are literally trying to get to the final 3 laps, and then we're going to try and make some moves. We just want to make sure we get to that point. There's a couple of back markers, then take the high side. I'll tell you what, you've got to show the APAC region some respect where it's due. They're indeed off the circuit when they need to be, and they're making sure it's very easy for the lead group. But again, the last thing anyone needs now is one of them to just drop down into the middle of the pack. And the front 6 here just want to try and get away. It looked like we might have just had Connor Healy make a ever so slight error there. And I think he was maybe trying to use one of the back markers. Here we go. He's got up the high side. I'm wondering if he might have just got a run to potentially get up into where Darren Robb's position is, a P5. Is he looking to go? He has gone around the outside. I think he has got it. He did get it. Connor Healy, I think, has just moved up into P5. So as we head
very sneaky.
Yeah, very sneaky. As we head up then towards the final few corners, did he manage to get it? Did he manage to get it? It will change.
I think he's still P6, but don't quote me on that. I'm trying to spot the.
They're across the line now, so it should change. If it's going to change, it's going to change. No, Rob's still in P5 there. So it looked like he was going to make a move. And you can see that the back markers now are onto the back of the pack here. So are they going to be able to help someone like Scott, someone like Rob? Those two need to be in the top 3 because obviously they can push now. They will work together. They will try and indeed get back onto the lead lap. But ultimately now, as much as they are a lap down, they'll be thinking, well, let's try and finish ahead of everybody here and show what pace we actually did have. But yeah, another back marker then. Again, can they get onto the back of the pack? And all of a sudden here, it's like a game of Snake on a Nokia 6310. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. This is the only game you have on your phone was Snake. And this is what's happening right now. They're just eating a block and becoming bigger at the back end.
It's the only game you ever needed, Luke. That was it. That game defined years of my childhood. Might explain a thing or two, mind you.
Yeah, for sure. It was a glorified Tetris, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. That's 9th and 10th, by the way, those 2 back markers as well. So that's Peter Jones and Stephen Butcher. Stephen Butcher especially obviously caught out in that horrible incident at the start of the race. But like we mentioned earlier, as far as points are concerned, finishing in the top 10 today gets him valuable points to cement a place in the semi-finals. So every lap matters here for Stephen Butcher, especially. We'll be keeping an eye on him. But if he finishes where he is now, I think I'm fairly confident in saying we will see him back in the semi-finals for another shot at these races next week.
Yeah, 100%. But here we go, 2 to go. And as you can see, we have indeed got Butcher that's trying to make something work here. Probably best just staying out of it. Darren, Rob, Healy, for me right now, they are literally doing what I said they didn't want to be doing. They don't want to be going to work on Monday saying, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. They haven't really been able to get close enough to try and force the issue, and now it's only a lap and a half to go. When do you think about making a move? You've got to start trying to make a move now, surely. Otherwise, you're going to, leave it till it's too late. They are just bunching up ever so slightly. Again, the 2 back markers are very close behind. But the front 6 of this group are the front 6 in this race. On to the final lap we will go. The white flag is coming down. Matt Danson, can he make it 5 from 5? He's got Graham Bunyan in behind him. Graham Bunyan, of course, will want to try and make a statement going into next week's semi-finals. Yes, someone can beat Matt Danson. Stuart Anderson, of course, looking to qualify via the top 3. He will qualify via the points, but this could just guarantee it in that top 3. James Scott and Darren Robb, those 2 have to finish in the top 3 to qualify as we come then through one of the final corners of the G Challenge qualifying process. And it is super, super close here, almost being pushed here. Bunyan, when's he going to decide to go here? When is he going to decide to go here? Is he going to decide to go at all? Does he come around the curve here? It's 5 from 5. Matt Danson takes it. No one tried to push for a position there. I am absolutely flabbergasted that no one went for it. I guess there was no real opportunity to do so. Matt Danson's gone on led from start to finish. Well, he has been absolutely superior to everybody so far in this G Challenge, and he goes into the semi-finals absolutely the favourite, and rightly so.
Well, even our attempted caster curses can't shake Matt Danson off the top step of the podium. Graham Bunyan and Stuart Anderson will join him. Interesting fact there, Stuart Anderson was one of the biggest point scorers as well. So that means because he's qualified directly via the podium, that actually frees up another spot for a possible point scorer that wouldn't have made it through, who will now make it through. So for some of the drivers that are maybe languishing in sort of the 20th to 30th overall, that was actually a big result, seeing Stuart Anderson on the podium.
Yeah, for sure. Again, there's lots of different layers to this onion of a competition, that's for sure. Again, it gives someone else an opportunity to go through. He would have been pretty happy that it's done and dusted. There's no, obviously it's pretty much guaranteed, but just knowing that it's done. I'm a bit baffled that, in particular, 2 drivers just didn't really try anything. It's the perfect circuit to go for it. Yeah, it just didn't materialize, which is, I guess it happened in terms of racing. They were covered off well. It was only single file. No one wanted to work for it. What would have been a perfect situation is if a back marker had pulled out high and then they could have gone with them or something like that. But it was one of those where it's like, oh, I'm not going to take a chance here. And by not taking that chance, they had the same outcome as if they tried and failed. So
yeah,
for me, at least I finished 20 seconds or 20 laps behind, but give it a go at the very least. Yeah, it is.
Fourth and fifth could have absolutely at least attempted something there, but maybe they thought they had another lap to do it. I'm not sure, but no one pulled out in the end, so the race finished the way it was. Let's go ahead and take a look at those final results of the stock car race powered by Splunk. Here you go. Matt Danson, Graham Bunyan, and Stuart Anderson are your podium finishers. Matt Danson making it 5 out of 5 victories in the APAC stock car discipline. Absolutely brilliant drive from him. In 4th place, we then have James Scott, and behind him, Darren Robb. Connor Healy, Matt Smith, and Isaac Nichols will make up the top 8, and they were effectively, the top 6 were the leading pack. Matthew and Isaac were next to each other, and then Peter Jones and Stephen Butcher will round out the top 10 with 22 and 20 valuable points, respectively. And then we have Jeff Newton and Michael Berter, 11th and 12th. Craig Corbett and Barry Neal finishing behind them. And we get into the plus 20 lap territory now. Max Riley, Wade Sheedy, and Reese McGillivray will be accompanying Rinaldi Edo and Yuki Furuya to round off the field. But again, valuable points being scored there as well. So here we go. Oh, taking a look at this one more time is going to be worth its weight in gold. On the program feed, we didn't actually see the crash, but we definitely have it here. That's half the field taken out. Just a casual bit of non-slowed down Daytona there. Ooh, that is a massive amount of G's that the car in 312 pulled. That was the best possible fairground ride, I think. A lot of highlights to talk about in the race, but mainly, to be honest, Luke, in the first 3 laps.
Yeah, I would love to go to the fairground and go, can I please get on the car crash ride, please? That's my favourite one.
Whee!
Yeah. That killed half the people's races, but again, I don't think anyone in that group particularly would have had the pace to have lived with the front 3 anyway. The front 3 were just super, super fast. It was pretty much a procession like this from sort of lap 5 onwards, and it just didn't change from this. Again, I'm really quite surprised that we didn't see in the picture right there 4th and 5th try and make some moves. Maybe they feel like the points that they get for 4th and 5th is going to be enough to get into, the top 15, top 17, 18 positions, however many it will be in the end. I just don't get it, to be honest with you, John. And again, I don't want to be overly critical. There's a reason why we're talking about them driving, and they're driving. They're very talented, superstars in the making for sure. But I think there's going to be a lot of regret there. And as someone who played sports at a pretty decent level when I was younger, I treated every game like I had to give everything. Like I was proper blowing by the end of the game. And if there was ever games where I just knew I didn't give 100%, I knew about it. I could feel it during the game. And I feel like that there was a big opportunity missed there for a couple of drivers for sure.
Well, like you say, some of those drivers will potentially end up going to work on Monday morning going, oh, why did I not give it all on the track? Why did I leave something to be desired from a potential overtake on the last couple of laps, even if it went horribly wrong? The gap between the top 6 and the cars behind them was, 10 plus seconds? Even if a move goes horrifically wrong, the most you're losing is a place or two, right? And what you could have gained is a place on the podium. But frankly, look, those chapters are now written, and one person who will not be having that regret going into work on Monday morning is Matt Danson, who joins us now as the stock car champion. Matt, 5 for 5, literally not another driver has beaten you over the course of the last 5 months. You have cemented your status as one of the drivers to be watching out for next week in the semifinals. How does it feel to complete your FIFA?
Yeah, awesome. It was pretty nerve-wracking, I suppose, being Daytona, super speedway, you don't know what's going to happen. But I was pretty confident, once we had the lead, qualifying on pole was really important. And once I had that, it was just a matter of, keeping it straight and just keeping, Graham on my bumper and not really getting too much separation.
Well, first of all, as I always say, congratulations. Even more so for yourself. 5 from 5 is an incredible stat on its own. And my question really is about a couple of drivers behind you. 4th and 5th, they haven't been here, month in, month out like yourself. Are you surprised that neither of them actually went for it in the end?
James, so P4, he's a buddy of mine, he's a teammate. So I've been encouraging him for months to give it a go. And so gave him some coaching and worked on it, and he did great. We're hoping, it would have been amazing if he had been able to qualify maybe 2nd or 3rd. So he just missed out on that. But yeah, that would have been incredible, because then we could have just sailed off in the distance. But I'm hoping he made it on points. I'll be sad if he didn't, but he's got a lot of talent, and obviously everyone else that gave it a go, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the semis.
Looking forward now to the semi-finals. I mean, it's a little bit of a different beast now, isn't it? Because you've now got the best of the best coming back to have a second chance to snap at your heels. Do you feel that there's a lot of increased pressure here, or now that you've at least faced all of them at least once and beaten them all, you're thinking, actually, what are you talking about? This is the same thing over again.
I'd hope that, obviously coming out and winning the races thus far is a good mental game, that they'll have to overcome. Because, they'll be hunting for me, like you said. But, it'll just take, I'll be putting in the work to make sure I'm prepared and just try and, as I say, execute and hopefully it's all good.
Well, normally we actually end with the third question, but I've got one more. Sorry, John.
Go for it.
Who's your biggest rival going into the semi-finals?
Well, that is a good question. There's been a few who've been really strong. Haven't been at all the races. So Graham, of course, Graham Bunyan. He's been incredible. Is that other guy's name? Travis, I think it was the guy who was leading it.
Travis McDaniel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was leading. A suspiciously American accent, by the way, for Travis, but he was leading really well at Charlotte, and he that was probably one that I got lucky with, and then he was right with me at Indianapolis, so he'll be a super strong competitor, and it's oval, anything can happen at any time. You come across a lap car at the wrong point, and of course when you're in the semis, there's no room for mistakes, so. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations once again. All target, of course, on Matt Danson going into the semifinals. Absolutely fantastic. But it's not just Matt Danson that can win today. You can as well. If you go ahead and hit ! giveaway in the chat, we are operating a giveaway all weekend where you can win some delightful Logitech G gear. So make sure you go ahead and do that and get in the draw. So a huge thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for helping us put on this show. That was the stock car race, 1 out of 3 down for APAC now. And when we come back from this short break, we've got the Dallara IR01s and the open wheel race where we're going to be traveling all the way to Interlagos. See you in a little bit. Welcome back to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. I'm your host, John Sargent. Joining me today is Luke Crane. But before we get into qualifying at the open wheel here at Interlagos, we caught up with Bo Albert a little bit earlier on. Let's go ahead and take a look at how they're getting on heading into qualifying this week.
So Bo Albert is really close here. Bo Albert does take pole here by about 100th of a second. Bo Albert is, again, one of the very best in the world.
I'm Bo Albert, I compete for Logitech G Altus Esports, and I'm from Geelong, Australia. I got into sim racing at a very young age. I was very lucky that my mum was able to buy me a racing wheel for Christmas, which was a beautiful Logitech Driving Force GT, and it really all started from there on the console games. I would say the racing I'm most interested in is actually rallycross. It's just very short, sharp racing, high intensity. I think it suits and sort of plays to my technique and driving style as well. So I do really enjoy open wheel racing. It's something that I find very, very fun, but it's something I don't do super regularly. So coming to Logitech G Challenge, I do actually feel like I'm a little bit inexperienced in open wheel cars, so that's a big learning curve for me. I compete for Logitech G Altus Esports, and I'm very, very lucky to be in a position where I can actually call sim racing my full-time job. So this is what I do day in, day out. So I spend usually about 6 hours a day on the sim rig, so it's a big time commitment for me, and to be a part of a team house, one of the first in Australia, or the first sim racing house in Australia, is a massive honour as well. I would say my biggest supporter is probably my girlfriend. She knows extremely little about sim racing, but every step of the way she's supporting me, and she'll always send me like a good luck message or something beforehand, so absolutely appreciate her. Outside of sim racing, probably one of my biggest hobbies that I have that unfortunately with lockdown restrictions hasn't been so easy has of course been fitness. I do love my fitness. I have qualifications to be a personal trainer. I would absolutely describe it as a team sport, even though some people may think that, you know, when you're racing, it's just you on the track by yourself doing the best you can. For a team like Altus Esports, there's actually a lot that goes behind the scenes. We're really thinking things through quite a lot. So it's absolutely a team sport, and without a team behind you that is all working together in unison, it is very difficult to get results in sim racing these days with the level it's at. For me, sim racing is my only outlet to actually compete at this level in cars, and to be honest, I find them extremely comparable to the point where I don't miss having the opportunity to race real cars, because sim racing gives you the exact same emotions, it's the same excitement, and those wheel-to-wheel battles, even though it's virtual cars, the emotions and excitement that goes into it is very much real. It is my first ever time in the Logitech G Challenge, so it's hard to sort of set expectations on where I might end up, but the goal is obviously to go and get that race win if I can in the finals, try and make my way through to the very end. All I can do is do the best I can and hope for the best at the ends of the checkered flag.
And that was Bo Albert. Bo already qualified, of course, for the semi-finals next week. He's not here today, but that's because he already qualified in race 2 earlier in the year. We're excited to see how he improves leading up to the big event, keeping his cards close to his chest, not competing today, maybe just quietly putting the laps in the background.
Embarrassing though, really, isn't it? He's an absolute smoke show of a human, yet he has a filter on every picture we saw of him.
I mean,
he just needs to sort out. If I looked like him, there'd be no filters on anything. I'd be fully showing my beautiful, glorious face.
I think when you get that big and you've got the red and blue tube lighting all around you at all times, I feel like it's almost a contractual obligation to use filters on everything, Luke.
Okay, well, yeah, especially kissing lips, John. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
my bad. But
exactly right.
Here we are. Jaden Ladich then is on pole position by, absolutely nothing. He's currently right at the front there and looking very, very good as well. One of the quicker drivers we've had throughout the competition. Again, I think this is going to be the most open we have had, an open wheel championship. With James Scott, though, in second spot. We've just heard from one of his friends in terms of Matt Danson. Can James Scott potentially go up there and get himself a top 3 in this discipline?
Matt Danson not content in absolutely demolishing everyone in one discipline, is currently running in P6. So absolutely delightful stuff there. Qualifying now about to come to a close. And I can't wait to see where everyone moved up. I'm pretty sure about 6 different drivers had their times change in the last 10 seconds of that. So I actually don't know who's currently on pole position, who's going to be taking the top 3, top 5 positions here around Interlagos. We'll find out in just a moment. But for now, a quick word on the track conditions. 39 degrees centigrade. There's the half a degree we were talking about earlier. So it's very slightly cooler here at Interlagos. Of course, a very different racing discipline as well, with a 25-degree ambient temperature. Light breeze and cloudy conditions mean we should be in store for an absolutely delightful day of racing.
Yeah, 100%. Again, the key the positions on this circuit are out of turn number 13 all the way down in towards turn number 1, and out of turn 3 down towards turn number 4. They're the 2 most important parts of the circuit. You can afford to make a couple of mistakes through the middle sector as long as you indeed keep nice and tight to the car behind. Here we go then, John. Here's your grid.
Indeed it is, and Jaden J, what an excellent name. On pole position, of course, alongside James Scott, and we then have Hayata Asaga in P3, immediately alongside Jared Sirkovitz. Jay Brazier and Matt Danson will be lining up on row 3 of the grid. Jeff Newton and Jackson Starrett. Of course, we're very familiar with those names here in APAC. And Connor Healy and Jonathan Eaton will make up 9th and 10th.
Rest of your grid then will look as follows. We have got Ryan McCarthy in 11th position. Matthew Smith is in 12th. We've then got Phil Blackburn in 13th position. Peter Bossons in 14th. Bruce Long and Matt Beresville are in 15th and 16th. And Adrian Windmill is in 17th position. And I'll tell you what, John, and again, I don't want to do this grid a disservice here. It's not full of the strong drivers we've seen over the course of the last few months. This is really kind of, I don't know, maybe just below the top tier from the region. Big opportunities, though, it will indeed open. We can hear the engines revving in the background. We're about to go green light racing here then at Interlagos for our Open Wheel Challenge final, monthly final for the APAC region. As they indeed keep revving those engines or waiting for the green lights to appear.
The way they've manicured that tree is excellent, by the way. Really good shaping.
For sure. It's like a game of noughts and crosses, Nature Edition. Here we go then. Engine still going here. One's going to blow up in a minute. And we are green light racing. And, well, looks like a couple of cars have not gone off the line very well there. There's a car
Jackson
actually on
Starrett.
it. Yeah, someone's just ended up on their roof. There's a roof on the wrong way round. There's cars off the exit of turn number 1. Safe. Yeah, go on, John, you dissect that. That was interesting.
I don't know if Jackson Starrett jumped that start or what, but he started 8th and he's now in 3rd. Like, that was absolute lightning bolt of a start there. What an amazing start off the line here at Interlagos. Ladich and Scott, of course, are going to be happy just to get away from that. It looks like there's a little bit of an incident further back. Hayata Asaga is definitely not in P3 right now. That was ridiculous. P3 now. Jackson Starrett, for me, absolutely stole the show off the line.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful start. I do think he was also aided by a couple of people going the opposite direction. I think a couple of them started off in reverse.
Fair, yes.
Yeah, but for the most part, fair play to him to go from 8th up to 3rd position.
Wait, is that thirds in this lobby? What?
Yeah, he's now halfway around lap 2.
Yeah.
As you can see, they use all of the pit entrance here. They've got to take the tightest line possible. Jaden Ladich and trying to break the toe as early as possible, realistically, as we come then down in towards turn number 1. And the times now sort themselves out. So Asaga in 2nd position, and then there's like a group of 3 cars in behind them. Starrett, Scott, and then we've got Sajakiewicz. I can never say that name. I'm not even going to pretend that I know. I'm probably going to say it wrong about 14 different ways during this race. And well, just let me be me.
Exactly right. I'm going to go with Circovix and keep it there. Apologies if that's a little bit incorrect. We have some action right behind Jackson Starrett, though. We can see the green car there managing to get alongside. Very clean overtake, I have to say, heading out of turns, out of the turn immediately post Senna S is lining that up very, very nicely indeed. And it is Circovix, almost as if we were hearing Luke talk about him, and he went, right, I'll give him another reason to say my name a couple more times in the first half of this race. Good to get that practice in early.
Yeah, and if you do qualify in the top 3, you can also send a text to your parents to let them know you've done well, and also to tell them that your surname is now being said a different way and that they need to change how it's said.
Exactly. I mean, look, if Luke, the way Luke pronounces it is absolutely how it has to go. We know this. We've done G Challenge now for quite a while. This is straight up the rule. And that is, oh wow, that's actually an overtake on Jackson Starrett as well. That was mega. Bear in mind, that's the second overtake in almost as many corners, but Jackson Starrett coming back for another bite back. He hasn't got the inside line though.
It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant there from, what we're going to go for, Sikovic. Okay, we're going to go with that. Yeah, picks up a great move there to get up into 4th, and then on the same lap, or down in towards turn number 1, gets the move done for P3. This is the qualifying position, needs to be in the top 3 realistically. Well, moving then off towards the front 2, and really wants to be hoping that the 2 behind him sort of back each other up and start battling. But yeah, 100%, he is looking very racy indeed, and there's contact behind here. But yeah, Jared, as I'm going to call him now for the rest of this race, Jared now up to P3. I've taken the cop-out reason here. But yeah, he's now up to P3. Starrett and Scott are costing each other so much time right now that he's able to just drive away.
We've got a Quantum Pay replay of what happened at the start of that race as well. So let's go ahead and take a look behind this battling pair, or trio, I should say. What actually went on there? Well, first of all, they did what you said on Daytona. It's 27 wide going into T1.
Yeah, well, we had the orange car there went up the inside of the yellow car, and then the blue car drove over the green car. And then,
no.
well,
oh, no.
Yeah, it's Asda car park at 10 a.m. on a Friday.
Making a mental note to avoid it.
Yeah, wheels everywhere, carbon fiber everywhere, couple of souvenirs for the fans in the stands, and very similar to what we saw with the stock car race. Half the field pretty much gone straight away.
I have only one question for you there, Luke. Do you normally arrive at Asda at 9:59 a.m. on a Friday?
Yeah, sometimes, I guess. Sometimes. But yeah, there was a car park on the start-finish straight, so when people ask those drivers particularly, how did your G Challenge go? Well, didn't even make it to turn one.
Oh, wow, indeed. So that's a big incident at the start of today's race. But at the moment, we've got Ladic in the lead by about 0.6 of a second. And it looks like, is that a Saga behind?
James Scott. This is James Scott.
Yeah, this is James Scott. I was looking at that behind going, what's going on here? So
He's got Starrett. He's ahead of Starrett now, so he's up to P4, and he's got a bit of a gap here, so he's trying to follow Jared through.
That makes a lot more sense. He's going to be fighting for a podium place now if he can get another second up the road, which he might be able to do. At the end of the day, Serkovic was lightning, but he's not exactly pulling a gap. Not yet.
Yeah, Jared doing really well in P3. I'm calling him Jared for the rest of this competition,
Maybe
not only
it's
today.
Jared.
Okay, so here's the musical section of the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, John is getting more and more tired as the day goes on. Jared, though, P3, in behind the Saga and Ladic. It's about 3 seconds between Jared and indeed a Saga. But I tell you what, he's not going to be worried about looking forward here, because behind him, James Scott is absolutely flying. Visually, you can see that gap is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So that final qualifying position, this is bubbling up nicely here. This is going to be a lovely little battle for sure.
I just remember, I think it's Jared's Jewelers in Australia, remembering that jingle from commercials when I was growing up and visiting my grandparents. Not that I'm showing my age or anything there. I'm sure they make wonderful products. I haven't actually checked in the last decade or two. But yeah, Jared is in third place right now. And the front two cars are comfortably off in the distance. You can just about see them at the end of the Senna S's as Serkovic moves into them. So really, it's a battle unless we see a big mistake between third, fourth, and fifth right now. And they're 4, 5, and 7 seconds respectively off the lead here at lap 6 out of 15. So 9 laps left to go in this race. And plenty of opportunity, especially as the tires start screaming and threatening to give up for any of these cars to try and get close enough to bunch up and potentially overtake.
Yeah, James Scott's done a 1:11.124. Now he's got into clear air. Be interested to see what Jared's done. So once we get onto board with Jared, we'll see his lower third, I'm sure as well. But I think that James Scott is genuinely flying here. He's closing that gap down. He's 2 seconds now clear of Jackson Starrett, so no pressure to be worried about. He can just focus on hitting every apex, hitting every breaking point now, just qualifying laps. Get into that slipstream. Is he into that slipstream now, though? That is the big question. Is he close enough to trying to get a look here? Maybe not quite as of yet, but if he continues to maintain the pace that he's on, 1.9 actually for Jared. So Jared actually is still going quickly, but that is their fastest lap that they have produced all race. So I still think that Scott is actually going a little bit faster here. This is going to be, they're not going to catch up to the front two, I don't think. I can't see them catch up unless Saga really does lose that slipstream with Ladic and then really starts to struggle on his own. I can't really see him being
contact, maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be too far apart really for there to be any contact. I think maybe if he runs onto the grass and makes his own mistake, maybe that's a potential opportunity. And I was saying that this is catching up, but now if you look at this lap here, it looks like Jared's probably eked out a little bit of a gap here. So it's like a game of cat and mouse right now, and rightly so. I think these two have to give it absolutely everything, and James has got to learn from the last race because he really did not leave it all out there at Daytona. And this is kind of the race where if he does it twice in a row where he really just didn't push the car and, didn't push it to the limit where it was either I'm going to challenge for that P3 or make a mistake and lose it completely, it's just going to be devastating for the next, while, I guess.
So 1.25 seconds was the gap between Serkovic and Scott. in the previous lap. Let's see what that gap is now. 4.7, 5.9. Scott actually takes a 10th out of him here. So he is biting back. It's a very, very slightly faster lap for the car in 4th place. But yeah, to get properly up underneath that rear wing to mount an overtaking maneuver, he's going to want to do slightly better than that. He's got decent pace so far. I agree with you, Luke. Neither of these cars are looking likely to pass Hayata Asaga at the moment, who's running in a comfortable P2. The question is whether he can close the gap onto Ladic. And at the moment, it feels like Ladic is driving within himself and controlling the pace of the race rather than Asaga keeping up. We can't be 100% sure until we see the sort of lines that Ladic is taking. We see how chilled out, I guess, his approach is to these mid sections of the race. But at the moment, the front two don't really have too much to worry about.
Yeah, I don't think that Asaga wants to catch him. I don't think it's in his interest. No, I don't think it's in his interest at all to catch up. Why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
You're in a comfortable qualifying position right now. Jackson Starrett's been caught here by Jay Brazier. So Brazier then is right up the rear end here of Starrett. And yeah, ever since Starrett was battling for a potential top 3, really just hasn't looked good here. And that looked far too easy there for that to be a genuine overtake. Just looks like there might have been a mistake here from Starrett. But yeah, looking at the qualified drivers right now, Ladic has already qualified. He's the oh my lord. That is a huge, what has he done there?
That's a straight bit. What's going on?
Yeah, that is not the fastest part of the track there. It's not like he's trying to find any kind of gains there. That was, wow, I'm perplexed. That was almost like Jackson Starrett's put some sort of curse on him as he's overtaken him.
My God.
He just drove into a wall.
And that was on a straight as well. Like, I guess it's possible that 2 wheels hit the grass and the car sort of gets dragged along, but you'd expect the driver to at least attempt some sort of correction there. It just looks like Jay Brazier lost a little bit of control or got a wheel onto the grass and then decided to run with it. I'm not really sure what's happening there. I'm with you. I feel like Jackson Starrett cast level 6 something, God knows what. And just like that, he's back in P5.
Yeah, I think that was just a good old brain fart, to be honest. That was, yeah, it was like the Windows shutdown music happened in his head. Like for a split second. And ultimately, there were car parts flinging everywhere. Luckily, it's a sim racing and there's going to be no one hurt with that. But look how far the wall is away from where the cars are. Like that, it's not just a small mistake, it's a huge mistake. And it didn't look like he'd just been dragged out into the grass. It looked like he just drove into the wall. We've got a replay here.
Yeah, we've got a quantum pay replay of exactly what happened to Jay Brazier. I have a feeling it's not going to tell us too much more. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Here we go then. So, no, he just drives off, I think. Yeah.
See you later.
So, that to me, he's trying to correct it. So that's not his equipment failing there. That is, he's looking in the rearview mirror and trying to figure out as to whether he's going to get caught in the slipstream or not, and wasn't looking forward at all, and just it's too late to recover it. I think that's what's happened.
Don't text and drive, kids. Don't text and drive.
I think again, it's slipstream such a huge factor of these cars, and you kind of get a feel of things when visually you can just see it and go, oh yeah, he's definitely not close enough. There's no chance that he's going to be able to close up that kind of gap, especially when they're all on the same setup. So he knows exactly how far the car needs to be behind, and ultimately, yeah, he's just taken his eye off the ball, so to speak, and just put it into a wall. Very peculiar. We've seen some big smashes this season, but nothing quite along the lines of that in terms of it's just their own fault. That was.
I think so. There was no one else to blame.
I don't think I've ever seen that in sim racing. That kind of accident. That's really strange. I'm quite mind blown there. Anyway, up to
my level of sim racing, we see stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all, John. I've seen a couple of your sim racing streams, and they're interesting. That's for sure.
They're eventful.
Yes, definitely. It's turn 13. This is for the final qualifying position. So before, selfishly, Brazier decided to put himself into a wall. I was going to mention that Ladic has already qualified, so right now there's only really 2 spots available. Asaga's in one of them, and this is the battle for the final one. Across the line they come, and a late defensive move then by that number 33. And as you can see, they're almost touching each other coming through the center S's, and he's close enough now for an opportunity for the move here. James Scott then is trying to seize the opportunity, closes up into the slipstream here, and it will be a defensive move. And well, fair enough. I tell you what, yeah, James Scott here thinks he's got him. So it's a catch-22 situation right now, John. You kind of stay behind them. If you make a mistake, it's over for you. Like, you are going to not be close enough and get that potential battle. He thinks he can be close enough, though, out of turn 13 and do him across the line. So yeah. I would be very surprised if he tries to make a move at all now until the last lap. But again, this is what happens. Look at the gap. The gap comes out, and if he makes one tiny mistake being in the jet-washed air of the car in front, ultimately, you know, that's where things can go wrong. So again, I asked the question here, are you going to be proactive? You know, you've just gone through the stock car challenge. It's unlikely that James is going to be qualifying for the semi-finals because he didn't move up any positions into the top 3. He's got to rely on the points. Are you going to be proactive now and try and get this done as early as possible, or are you going to try and wait and then potentially the opportunity disappears? It's one of those where he is a little bit closer this time, grabs a bit of curb, and well, now we're about to see.
I mean, I think the correct thing to do is to wait another lap, because at the end of the day, that gap was 1.5 seconds before, and it's closed up to almost nothing with James Scott not doing very much. So Jared Surkovitz is very clearly struggling a little bit for pace in terms of trying to keep up with James Scott here. And James, I think, has to sit and wait, but he's got 3 laps to do it in, and I think waiting at least 1 lap for the car in front to make a mistake is perfectly reasonable considering how quickly he closed this gap. 1 mistake, for example, heading out to the final corner before that beautiful uphill long straight means that James will be able to get a really nice clean overtake into turn 1. Another little bit of a wobble on the inside curve. It could actually unsettle the car going into that very corner we were talking about just then. James Scott also using a wider line, moving up the hill now, and it looks like he's in the slipstream, and it's going to be good to potentially go for an overtake across the start-finish straight here at Interlagos. This is for the final podium position. He moves to the outside. Surkovitz is going to be going defensive, very early on. Let's see what they can do through the center S's.
He didn't go for it. He did not go for it. And right now, I thought Jared was going to try and give up the position. He did not go for that there. He could have quite easily made that stick round the outside. He was definitely close enough coming out turn 13. But I just don't think he was proactive enough there. And I disagree with you, John. I think you've got to make it as early as possible. Even if you fail, because you can kind of gauge where the driver in front is going to defend, and you can then plan, have 2 plans. So if it doesn't work one way, you then realize, oh, okay, so that's where he's going to be strong defensively. That's where I've made him go the first time. So the second time you go the opposite, or you do a double bluff and you go for it again, and they're not going to be expecting it. But right now, we've got Jared here in P3. He knows exactly what he's going to do. He knows it's going to happen on the final lap, and he knows what position he's going to put the car in. He hasn't been asked any questions yet. So, yeah, he had the inside line. And I'll tell you what, again, he was a lot closer last time round, was James Scott. He did not make the move. Again, he will close up here. I don't think he's going to be quite close enough. You're going to see right now, as we've got the white flag here for the final lap, Jared will move over to the left, or will he have to? No, he doesn't have to here. So as we come out the center S's, it comes down to this. Who's going to get into that top 3? Will it be James Scott, or will it be Jared? Jared is then indeed taking turn number 3 to run down to turn number 4, moves over to the left-hand side here, and he said to him, if you want to make the move, you've got to go around the outside. And again, he actually doesn't. He doesn't need to.
Wow.
He's got a really good exit there. Through 4 they come, using a bit of curb there. Again, it's brilliant from him. The middle sector's pretty easy to defend here. James Scott can decide to potentially, try a fake up the inside, but you just can't really overtake here in the middle sector at the very least. Ladic, by the way, and Asaga, they are both, well, Ladic is already qualified here. Asaga's going to take that second spot, but it is legitimately down to the final position between 2 drivers. The green car then is Jared, and then we have indeed got ourselves in. Oh no, there's a big mistake here. It's a huge mistake. So Scott is going to get the position, and it's come undone here for Jared on the final lap. And we've seen it already happen before today. Just going to power a little bit too early around that part of the circuit, you lose the car.
There we go.
It turns out then that James Scott's decision to stick behind was the right decision. Ultimately, I still don't believe it was. That's, again, the second driver to put into a wall intentionally. He is going to be absolutely furious with himself. Ladic, though, will take the victory. Has the #1 car as well, by the way. And Asaga does pick up P2. James Scott, by the skin of his teeth, I think. I think if there's no mistake there from Jared, I think that James is, again, outside that top 3. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. He's got that top 3, and he is going to be in our semi-finals.
Jared Sirkovitz, then commiserations to him. A mistake on the final corner before the start-finish straight of the final lap allows James Scott to go ahead and grab that P3. You know what? The more I think about it, the more I'm in agreement with you as well, Luke. To be honest, I feel like he had a fantastic opportunity to make that move stick 2 laps from the end. I thought it was fine to wait behind and wait for the mistake if it came within the next lap. It did. And then he didn't take advantage of it. It takes some 600 IQ, Billy Big Balls kind of play to wait for the final quarter of the final lap. But the point is, he managed to do it, and James Scott scores a podium position and will be at the semifinals next week, no matter what, in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge.
Yeah, and if I was to have a conversation with him about it, he could always argue the case of, well, it worked, what I did. So, you know, both sides of the coin work in this regard. I feel like he could have done it earlier. He had the pace, but, you know, he will then turn around and go, well, no, I waited and I forced him to make a mistake by getting on the power a little bit too early, tried to get a good run out of the 2 last corners to indeed defend against me making my advancements over towards the line. So, yeah, regardless of what I say, he got the top 3 position. That is all that matters. That is the bottom line. It moves on to the semi-finals, as simple as that.
Almost Interlagos 2008 all over again. A dramatic finish to that race. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final results for the open wheel discipline powered by a Splunk. Jaden Lalic then comfortably in first position, but Hayata Asaga doing a tremendous job to also secure their semi-final berth. With a delightful P2 finish. James Scott then completes the podium ahead of Jared Sirkovitz. We then have Jackson Starrett, who had that unbelievable start in 5th. Connor Healy, Matt Danson, Bruce Long, Matt Bereswill, who I believe started close to the back of the grid, so pretty good race from him, and Jay Brazier completing our top 10. After that, we then have the remainder of the field. Matthew Smith, Ryan DeCartier-McCarthy, Adrian Windmill, Jeff Newton, Jonathan Eaton, Phil Blackburn, and Peter Bossons. I suspect the latter 5 or 6 cars will have been involved in some way, shape, or form with that first lap incident that sadly wiped out a decent percentage of the field, but still taking home valuable points. We'll leave it then to the points boffins after the broadcast to figure out exactly who has got enough to make it through to the semi-finals. Oh, and there we go. I mean, a lot to write home about, not just on the first 2 laps, thankfully, Luke. We had a decent bit of midfield action all the way through that race. What gets me about that start, there was a second green car that was slowing down and literally just calmly slots the front wing of the car into the crash. It's like, you could try turning left or right.
Yeah, it's almost like they've been told that if they order food within a certain time period, they get it for free. Like,
oh yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, it was just, it was some weird crashes. I can't help but crack up. Sometimes you get thrown up things when you do this as a job that I don't what?
Meow.
It's like, yeah, for me, and again, I don't think we'll ever know, but I think
later, nerds.
He's looking in his rearview mirror to try and figure out whether he can defend the position, and this then just drives into a barrier by accident. Here again, I think Scott should have made that move there. I agree. He should have at least gone for it. But look, he could have stuck it around the outside and forced Jared in the green car there to be not able to use the curb on the outside, and easily makes the move stick there, but didn't. So I think he was always waiting for the. And that is, he is going to be furious with himself there. That is just a big schoolboy error. You know, regardless of how bad the tires are, you know, it's one of the very best at this level. That sort of mistake really shouldn't happen. Again, that's why he's plowed into the wall at the end. But Ladic, maybe some of the favourites aren't around for the open wheel, but he's taken full advantage of that.
And don't forget, it's not just the drivers on track who can win today as well. You can just go ahead and hit ! giveaway in Twitch chat and visit the link for some chances to win Logitech G gear. You could be walking away with these absolutely fantastic prizes come the end of the event. A huge thank you as well to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for helping us put this on. That's the open wheel portion of the race now done and dusted, which means the sports car discipline is next. And of course, for that, we move back to the home of British motorsport. It is Silverstone, ladies and gentlemen, coming right at you after this break. See you in a few.
The sun's coming through again, so it's getting a bit brighter. I'll just sort of... It's really bad in the morning because the sun goes straight through my window, straight to my bed. I have to keep waking up at 6 o'clock because there's just no shade. Since the last round, I've been moving house. Now I've sort of got the rig close by. I don't have to move anywhere, just sort of jump over, and overall it's a lot more compact and comfortable, really. Round 4, I noticed the name pop up on the leaderboards, Ferris Stanley, and I went, that's scary. On iRacing, he's like 6k iRating or something crazy. We get to the race start, and I don't know how many people picked up on it, but I couldn't get going when all the other cars went. I don't know what it was. My wheel just wasn't shifting up. I couldn't shift. So I sat there revving the car for about 20 seconds trying to get it to go. I was just stuck waiting on the grid where everyone else had already gone. So right before the line, I sped through the pack right up to the front. From there, that shifting problem actually followed me through the whole race. Every now and then, I'd just lose the ability to change gears. As it turns out, Ferris Stanley also had the same problem. So eventually, I had to find a way past Stanley. Coming out of Spoon, I just sort of saw that he was a little bit slow, and I managed to get the overtake. He was actually so slow that Houlihan actually managed to follow me through, and we just sort of ran away with it from there. I mean, I was a bit worried with all the shifting problems that Houli might get me, but I still managed to pull through. So round 5 is Silverstone, and the McLaren is the best car there, no questions asked. As much as I love Suzuka, I've probably driven Silverstone in the McLaren more just because I've always wanted to maximize it whenever I've driven it there. The only problem now is all the competitors are also in the McLaren. We'll see how it goes, but it should be fun anyway. Coming off of Silverstone will be a bit difficult because practicing for 2 tracks at once is always a little bit awkward, especially if they're 2 very different types of tracks. You might have to run a high downforce setup or a low downforce setup. Then the car might drive completely differently and it might mess up your muscle memory. It will be a little bit complicated, especially being that the race is only 1 week apart. I don't think anyone will have it easy when there's 2 tracks to deal with. I think with the run I've had so far, I think I should be a shoo-in to get into the grand finals. The pressure with semi-finals and then going into grand finals is that obviously you get all the people that might have been skipping a few rounds here and there. So you get O'Hara, you get Tan, you get Rahmat, all of those big scary drivers are coming back again. So the pressure will be on, and I just hope I can carry the momentum through and really get that prize for the grand finals.
Welcome back to the sports car discipline and the final qualifying session here in APAC for the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Farah Stanley is indeed back in this lobby, and that, of course, was Philippa Bakita. Now, unfortunately, Philippa Bakita cannot make it to this month due to personal reasons, but she has already qualified for the semi-finals. So we're excited to see how she performs next week alongside Farah Stanley here.
Yeah, but that opens up an opportunity for someone else. So that's, yeah, they're not going to be... I'll tell you, there's not one driver on this grid right now who's going to be dwelling on Philippa Bakita not being in the race, that's for sure. They're going to be super happy that they get an opportunity to take that spot away because Bakita's blocked so many people from qualifying already so far during this G Challenge. So opportunity, knocks, and all of that.
Absolutely. And we're watching here Farah Stanley. Currently just completing the first hot lap. No times, of course, on the board just yet. We've got a 10-minute qualifying session here in the stock car discipline compared to the rest, don't forget. So a little bit more time with all cars on track as well. Makes it just a little bit more dynamic, but you've got more opportunities to try and set a time. And like you said on the earlier broadcast, but very important point, we're racing at night here, so we could end up seeing a bit more consistency in terms of lap times. And speaking of consistency in terms of lap times, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the aspects of Silverstone our drivers should be watching out for. Born out of a disused airfield, Silverstone, now a global icon of a racetrack, hosting some of the world's greatest motorsport events and capturing some of its finest moments. Let's get stuck in. Moving out of Sector 1 through Brooklands, Luffield is a challenging hairpin where timing your throttle on the exit will be pivotal to getting a good run through towards Copse. There are several racing lines through this corner, so getting your practice in and seeing what works best for you will be important. After the blind as you enter Copse, the Maggots-Beckett's complex is deceptively technical. This left-right, left-right, left complex will test how well you have judged both your throttle and racing line to carry maximum speed onto the hangar straight. Any time lost here will be felt in a big way on your lap time. Vale leading into Club is a tricky double apex right-hander, where if you get your entry angles right, can be hugely rewarding with a burst of speed across the line to start and finish your lap. Heavy braking is required here, and judging how to gradually get the power back down will be the nuance that earns you valuable tenths. Fancy your chances at racing your way into our grand finals where you could win some money can't buy prizes? Try your hand and compete today, and perhaps we'll see you there. So what are you waiting for? Visit logitechgchallenge.com to enter and see you on track. We're now back live, just under 6 minutes left in qualifying now in Silverstone, and Ryan Houlihan putting the marker down, a 1:57.2 to start us off. We did see a couple of drivers early on making it into the 1:56s, but that's a pretty decent starting point.
Yeah, James Baldwin had a 1:56.9 to start things off. He got down to a 1:56.5. I believe. So yeah, he did manage to find a bit of extra time during the session, but again, 0.3 of a second between Houlihan and Baldwin in terms of their banker time. Again, Baldwin will use him as the benchmark really, because he is pretty much a benchmark of everyone. This is Jake Baldwin, not to be indeed confused with the Baldwin from earlier on. They are not related. They are indeed just got the same surname, which is pretty normal for normal people. There's loads of different people with the same surname. Just how the world works.
Exactly right. That's okay. We can have all of them in here. There's plenty of room. But of course, first you have to be one of the top 30 fastest qualifiers in that region. Jake Baldwin here looking to potentially place that car on the front row, but we'll have a fair bit of work cut out. Can't wait to see whether it's possible. I'm looking forward, in fact, to a very nice close midfield race in Silverstone. It hasn't let us down so far this weekend, so hopefully APAC is no different.
Yeah, that was a very messy first part of the lap, though, to be fair. Well, actually, sorry, we're mid part of the lap. I wouldn't imagine this is going to be overly too quick. It was a crash into a sausage curb, and then there was a bit of a slide at the rear as well, coming onto the Wellington straight as we come towards the final couple of corners then. Here we go, and where am I going to predict this time to be? I reckon maybe 4 seconds off the pace, something around those lines. Again, it may be a little bit faster than that. Across the line we will go. What position we are? Oh, P7, so a little bit faster than I first thought. Oh, a lot faster than I first thought, actually. A 58.8. So around about 1.7 seconds off the pace. And well, maybe if you can get rid of those little mistakes that were made in sector number 2, there is the potential here for a huge time for Baldwin.
That would be fantastic indeed. You have to string together, of course, every sector, though. It's not just about the first 2, but he's been doing a pretty decent job so far. The nearest competition to Ryan Houlihan, though, is Connor Davis, and I'm actually surprised that at this stage of qualifying, provisional P2 is almost half a second behind. I think maybe we've gotten the banker laps in now, and we need to see really a couple of these drivers step it up and crank another half second out of these cars. I know that a number of these drivers are more than capable of doing it, so I'm looking forward to seeing how quickly the field punches up.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, qualifying is pretty important in these GT cars. It's tough to overtake with these cars, if I'm going to be completely honest, but it's not the be-all and end-all. We've been around circuits such as Brands Hatch where really qualifying is everything. There are opportunities to make overtakes. We saw that earlier on as well with the EMEA region. So expect it to be a wide open contest, and expect there to be a few mistakes as well.
I mean, a couple of mistakes. Well, we saw Stowe Straight, was it, earlier on in EMEA? Obviously, Stowe Straight, something we saw in Formula 1 earlier this year. We'd rather not repeat that here, thank you very much. But a very wide circuit, multiple lines through some sections, and very fast and flowing does, of course, lead, especially under pressure, to drivers making some mistakes. And it's inevitable, it's part of racing, but it's also what we watch it for. At the end of the day, we need to be able to soak up that pressure, especially if the drivers here want to compete at the semi-final and global final level.
Yeah, 100%. Again, could not agree with you more. But let's talk about then the qualifying positions. So as it stands then, Connor Davis is already qualified. So is Ryan Houlihan. So effectively, only one position is available. If those two were to finish P1 and P2, you would like to think that they're going to have a little battle here in the final race, but yeah, historically they've kind of just all kept each other out of each other's way and just navigated their way through to the end of the race. There's nothing to lose here today. Going out there and give it everything. Maybe opens up an opportunity for Guy Barbara and maybe even Daniel Hunter. But yeah, as it stands, it will only be one driver. If it's to finish as it is right now in qualifying, only one driver will qualify through.
1.25 minutes left to go now. On board with Connor Davis, potentially improving from a 1:57.6. At the moment, Ryan Houlihan is just comfortably running away. I'm surprised that more drivers aren't within a tenth or two of Ryan Houlihan with a minute left to go in qualifying. we've seen 56s as well, and Luke, we know that several of these drivers are capable of posting those 56s. This just seems like, if you don't mind me saying, a little bit of a slower qualifying session than we would have expected.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that surprised, to be completely honest with you, though, John.
I'd expect Ferris to be up there, for example.
I definitely understand where you're coming from, but Houlihan, Bokida, those two in particular, have really been standouts.
They really have.
I guess you're right in terms of the qualifying is normally a little bit closer than this. But yeah, those two have just been, so strong throughout the whole competition. It's just every single race they are relentless. They've got a firm stranglehold on this competition, and yeah, this is no different today. I think maybe Houlihan is just, I don't know, maybe the pressure's off a little bit as well. Like we say, that drivers have been performing a little bit better if the pressure's off, and really the only person that's been putting any realistic pressure onto Houlihan has been Bokida. Bokida's not here, so it's kind of like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be one of the fastest here, or the fastest. And yeah, the relaxed mood around the camp is half a second, I would say. That's what I'm saying anyway.
No, that completely checks out as well. At the end of the day, the drivers that have dominated throughout the last 5 months are conveniently the drivers that are at the top of the field. I'm just surprised that the gap is by half a second. That is absolutely superb by Ryan Houlihan. And if these qualifying times are any indication of race pace as well, I'm expecting him to just comfortably zoom off into the distance.
Yeah, it really does all come down to whether Connor Davis, maybe even Ferris Stanley, can just get off the line really quickly here and force a mistake. They've just got to force a mistake from Houlihan. I think you're right. I think if he stays in the lead, he's just going to drive away. But if someone can get ahead of him, then it makes it a little bit more difficult. He's got to make an overtake. So remains to be seen. We know that these races tend to have a lot, especially the APAC region on ACC. We've not really seen the most overtakes within this game this season around the regions, but APAC specifically, we do tend to see one or two. So I'm excited to see how this goes down. And again, it's the final qualifying opportunity to get through the semi-finals. I think they're going to throw caution to the wind, and rightly so.
Now, immediately behind the top three, of course, we've got Guy Barbara in P4 and Sai Prithvi in P5, two names that we have seen before. So they're going to be trying to grab that final podium spot, if not further up, of course. They could finish first or second. We don't know what's going to happen in the race, but they're also names that we're used to seeing over the last couple of months. So a decent finish here could see both of them go through on points, even if they don't make the podium today.
Yeah, we say throw caution to the wind. There's a few drivers out there that, in particular, like you said, Sai, will just take it a little bit easy, just guarantee themselves a passage through to the semi-finals. But again, it's the final chance to really throw a statement out there, especially with one of the favourites not being in the race. There's an opportunity here for someone else to announce themselves amongst this, and there's no better way than the final qualifying opportunity. Someone comes out and stuns everybody and wins a race. It's really been, the same sort of drivers at the sharp end of the grid here. Big opportunity again. And just sometimes it's not just about, what sort of pace the drivers have. It's getting into someone else's head. Bokida not racing today. Houlihan is at the front of the grid here. Someone beats him. All of a sudden, they're all thinking about someone else opposed to their own preparation for the semi-finals. So there's loads of different, layers to this onion, as I've said a few times. And yeah, can someone just spring that surprise, really?
It's possible. It all depends on what they do off the start line, right? Track conditions here, 20 degrees on track, as well as ambient temperature. Absolutely no breeze at all. Nice and still. And it's not even raining, which is how you can tell this is completely unrealistic for UK driving conditions. But it is nice and cloudy, though. That much I do believe. And that, of course, means we're going to get some pretty good racing at night around the wonderful Silverstone circuit. So this is your grid, ladies and gentlemen, for the race that we are about to see. At least I think it is. There we go. Asia Pacific, Silverstone circuit. We have Ryan Houlihan on pole position ahead of Connor Davis, and it is a big gap as well. Let's see if it translates into the race. Ferris Stanley takes a credible P3, and lining up alongside is Guy Barbara. Sai Prithvi and Daniel Hunter will be row number 3, and Winrar Taruna and Joe Morgan will be 7th and 8th. Rounding out our top 10, Reagan Herbert and Ilham Shak.
Yeah, could we potentially see a Herbert win here at Silverstone? Very famously in the 90s, Johnny Herbert did it. Can we see that happen again here in 2021? Nigel Chua then in 11th position with Sam Budgeon in 12th. Jake Baldwin and Alex Millward are in 13th and 14th position. Matthew McEwen and Jeff Newton. P. Cheng Tsai in 17th. Enrico Grand in 18th. And then Wen Xian is in 19th position.
So that is your grid, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be getting ready to start in just a moment. Ryan Houlihan, without teammate and friend Philippa Bakita here, seems to be all alone on pole position, at least as far as the lap time is concerned. But like Luke mentioned earlier, it all comes down to how good a start he can make, because if he suddenly gets to P2 or P3 over the course of the first couple of corners, then my God, like the race could genuinely be wide open. We have yet to see a potential incident here in APAC taking out the leader, but we saw one in EMEA earlier on, so we never rule it out.
John's there sliding into everyone's DMs right now. Yeah, just cause a little ruckus into turn number 1 for us, please. Yeah,
here we go.
That'll be 20 Australian dollars into your PayPal. And that was a terrible, terrible accent. But yeah, you're right. We haven't, in an ACC specifically, we've seen some big smashes on iRacing in both disciplines, but an ACC it's been relatively clean as a whistle. So we are due one, I guess. Obviously, we don't want to see a race determined by that. But yeah, it'd be nice to see people just, I don't know, rubbing is racing as they, I hate that saying, but rubbing is racing as they say. Some people say anyway. And maybe there is the potential for that. Here we go then, it's race time. We're about to go on our little formation jaunt. A few people flashing their lights there. Just to let everyone, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're aware that you're behind them. So yeah, we're about to get going here. 20 minutes of racing action, the final qualifying opportunity to reach that semi-final next week. Oh, this could be an absolute classic here. Then it is Ryan Houlihan on pole position, Connor Davis then in second. Ferris Stanley and Guy Barbara are on the second row of the grid. Can Houlihan get that start of dreams? Has the inside line for turn number 1. We're about to go across the line here. It is the final qualifying race for the Logitech McLaren G Challenge APAC monthly finals number 5. And Houlihan does get away, but I tell you what, Connor Davis has got a very good start here indeed, although his second phase was not good at all. Stanley then just sits in behind in P3, low to curb on the exit there, and actually it's Hunter looking to potentially make a move up with Barbara into Magus and Beckett's looking at battle for P4. Oh, I tell you what, I think Hunter's got it as well. Houlihan though, Connor Davis and Ferris Stanley. Well, Ferris Stanley is off doing some rallycross there. He just cut the corner, that's for sure. There's another car there going off on the inside of the circuit. Well, we said that we wanted to see a little bit of carnage, but looks like people are making their own track up.
They absolutely are. Ferris Stanley actually got a really good start. Connor Davis managed to close the door going into T1 at the very last second. Otherwise, I think Ferris Stanley would be in P2 right now. So that's some good driving there from Connor Davis off the line. Now, all eyes for me are on whether or not they will be able to reel in P1. Ryan Houlihan, an absolute belter of a qualifying time compared to the rest of the field. Will he now start gapping everyone else, or was that just a one-off fantastic lap? And actually, in terms of race pace, the rest of the field will be able to keep up with him. We find out in just a second. Daniel Hunter indeed P4 ahead of Guy Barbara.
Yeah, Stanley here and Hunter, they've got a decision to make here. Do they make this a one-position race? Do they battle each other really hard here and force it to just be between them two, let the front two get away, and then ultimately potentially get caught by 5th position? Or it really does come down to P4 more than anything here. Does Hunter just sit in behind, just chill out there, don't do anything too crazy, just let the race develop ever so slightly? Maybe there's a mistake in front from P1 or P2. It's a real catch-22 situation, but ultimately you want to be in that top 3. I think you've got to go for it. I think you have to go for it and make it a one-on-one. In my opinion, yeah, you might get caught from a driver behind, but it's a difficult game to overtake on. So you've got that ability to defend the position, but I think if you're a Hunter right now, you've got to go for it. But I'm just not sure whether he's actually quite quick enough here. Ferris Stanley, oh, it's a bit of a mistake there, in front by Davis. Davis off into the tulips there, as Doc Hudson would say. And we go through Maggots and Beckett's. Yeah, Stanley maybe starting to struggle here himself.
Just dropping to a second behind the leader there is Ferris Stanley. Still not a big gap, so I'm holding out hope here, but actually the drivers are being very well behaved at the start of this race. It's a 20-minute race, of course. At the end of that 20-minute period, we will have the next time the leader crosses the start-finish line, this signals the end of the race. So plenty of time for drivers to potentially make a move. Everyone being very, very relaxed so far. I think Wunxian Li is the only car that seems to be very far off the tail end and might have actually gone off the track a little bit. Pi Cheng Sai in 18th place is about 7 seconds up the road from Wun. But aside from that, you can take a look at the cars coming across that short straight there. Absolutely delightful for Ryan Houlihan. He's not gapping as quickly as he wanted, but at the same time, it's almost a full second now. If he can just control the race pace from here, he should be able to produce a very nice measured race if all goes to plan.
Yeah, well, you know, a 1 second advantage at this level is manageable. It's, you know, the driver behind maybe just about in a tow, but it's not going to be enough to really catch up. We're on board with Davis. I think Davis will be, I'd say, relatively happy with this. He's already qualified, so he's going to want to go out there and get a racing. He wants to be that driver that goes, actually, hold on, I'm here to win races. So when it comes to next week, watch out for me. I'm in tip-top form. So yeah, I think he will be looking to try and push forward here. This will be a really, really nice sort of a nice accolade to have really on your CV if you're Houlihan. Go out there and convincingly beat everybody. Again, your biggest rival not in the race effectively. If you beat everybody else, you maybe then get Philippa starting to think about things, starting to maybe doubt whether they doubt themselves. That's the hardest thing when you start doubting yourself. How to get over that. So yeah, Houlihan really, all he's got to do here is just win convincingly. So we've got a new fastest lap in 58.245 for Daniel Hunter, currently in P4. Hunter is right behind Stanley here. So this starting to warm up between these two drivers. Remember, only one of Stanley and Hunter will qualify if it stays as it is with the front two. The front two have already booked their tickets to the semi-finals. Hunter then, again, very, very close to. He's made a mistake though through Stowe, and Stanley's going to gain a little bit of time. It just looks like they're actually closing up to the front two through there, but it's just because it's a messy entrance, they'll lose the time on the exit. So Ferris Stanley looks like maybe struggling through sector 1, maybe sector 2, but sector 3 hooking out really nicely, and all of a sudden it's gained maybe 0.4 of a second in that final sector.
The easiest bit of advice I think we've ever given out on this broadcast there, Luke. All you have to do is win convincingly. Oh, if only I'd known that from the outset. I'd be participating in this race.
Every single human starts off as a winner. Remember that.
and then as we go through life, it's this slow, inevitable descending spiral, isn't it?
Well, we've all won one race. That's a fact. Every single one of us has won one race. So
I like where you're going with that. That's very true.
Not going to go into specifics there, ladies and gentlemen, but it's true.
Yeah, it's not just a certificate of participation, ladies and gentlemen, but we have all won. So, you know, that's a good start. Can't say more than that.
There's a joke there, but I'm not going to go to it. Houlihan, 1.3 seconds in the lead. Again, he's one of those people that's just continued winning throughout his life, whereas people like myself, not so much. I tend to lose races. Connor Davis now in second position. Ferris Stanley in that third spot, and Stanley is kind of being given a little bit of an insurance here because Davis is providing a little bit of slipstream here, and there's a big enough gap between Hunter and Stanley as it stands that Hunter's not getting that benefit. So right now, this is looking very, very good for Ferris Stanley. It's just about whether he can hang in behind Davis. It's as simple as that. And just try and get that gap up to around about 1.5 seconds to the car behind. And then the front three are kind of away here. So Hunter, who did have the fastest lap of the race, kind of needs to get back into that groove here and get as close to Ferris Stanley as possible. You lose the tow round here, you're pretty much in trouble.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to be able to get tucked up right underneath the wing of the car in front. Lots of lovely long straights and a very, very wide track, of course, for cars to be able to use that to get up alongside and mount overtaking maneuvers. But you have to be close enough to take advantage of that in the first place. And ideally, you don't want to lose sight of that once you are actually tucked up behind that car in front.
But it helps you out. It helps you out, though, John. Like, it's more to do with the fact that every driver is going to make 1 or 2 mistakes during this race. But if you're tucked up behind somebody, you recover that time you've lost just by being in a slipstream with someone else. Like instantly, you know, on the next straight, right, I've just lost a couple of tenths there, but I will gain that back by being close behind. Hunter is not in the slipstream of the car in front, and actually you can see that because he's pushing, he's making mistakes. And now you can see the lights in that rear view mirror. There's every potential here that the P4 battle is going to start to happen here, which makes it very much easier for Ferris Stanley. And realistically here, Hunter knows that Ferris Stanley is quicker than Davis in front, He wants to be able to try and capitalize on any move potentially happening there, but it's just, again, coming undone at the seams a little bit.
It means that he's effectively going to have to rely on Ferris Stanley and Connor Davis to maybe get tangled with each other and lose a little bit of time twice as opposed to once, because he's going to need Ferris Stanley to attempt an overtaking maneuver in order for him to just get close enough behind in the first place now, let alone mount an overtaking maneuver. So it's doubly difficult here for Daniel Hunter. But that said, in fourth place, not out of the race yet, still within striking distance, especially if second and third start getting a bit more involved.
Yeah, I think they will. That's the thing here. I think they will. Davis is going to want to defend that position. You know, if Davis hadn't already qualified, you can bet your bottom dollar that if there was P3 creeping up behind them, he would probably let them go. If the situation is as it is right now, because there's not really any pressure from fourth and fifth. But the fact that Davis has already qualified here, that means that Stanley and him are going to genuinely battle if Stanley continues to be this much faster. So it does open up the door for fourth and fifth to catch up. This is perfect for Houlihan. Houlihan's the one here. I told you, he has to go out there, win convincingly, really set the mood going into next week, letting everybody know that actually I'm hitting form at the right time right now. And he's duly delivering that. And he's going to have a helping hand, I think, with the battle that is about to happen behind him.
You said earlier in the race, 1 second at this level, comfortably manageable. Make that 2. Ryan Houlihan at the moment, 157.677 is also the fastest car on track. Ferris Stanley is next, about 0.3 off, trying to catch Connor Davis here. So Ryan Houlihan here, really, dare I say it, with 10 minutes left to go at the halfway point of this race, it's beginning to look like it's his race to lose.
Yeah, 100%. It's a case of, because he's already qualified, just because of the way this competition is run, you've got to still keep pushing. You just got to keep trying to build that gap up as big as it possibly can be. You know, if you could end up by the end of this race being 5-6 seconds up the road, you know, over the course of how many laps is this going to be? It's going to be around about 11 laps, isn't it? Around about 11. It's going to be 11 laps. So if you could be, you know, sort of 6 seconds, you know, that's half a second faster on average a lap. That is a massive margin for anybody else to catch up. You can see that the gap's even bigger now. There's a mistake there from Davis, and I think that this could be the opportunity here. So come through Maggotts and Beckett's then. Davis is all out of shape here. Stanley with a chance to really close up. Stanley is on the power a little bit earlier through that left-hand kink. And how close then is it going to be up in towards the braking zone? I don't think it's going to be too close here. I don't think Stanley is going to be close enough to make a potential move. I also don't think that Stanley's going to be overly worried about that. I think ideally he wants Davis to be maybe 2-3 tenths of a second quicker over this period of race. Doesn't really want to get involved in any form of battling here because the only way that effectively can lose this qualifying position is either by making a mistake or getting involved in a battle that he doesn't need to be involved in.
0.35 of a second separating second and third at the moment. This is the fight for the final podium spot, and of course the more these guys tussle, the more this plays into the hands of Daniel Hunter in fourth place. Right now though, they're following each other nose to tail, but we haven't really seen aside from the odd minor mistake, no one's really sort of changing their line drastically and costing each other, you know, 3-5 tenths massive chunks of time or anything like that. So still very much on the cars behind to catch up. And actually, according to the timing beams here, we've actually got Taruna now in P4. So possible big mistake there. Yes, indeed, Taruna is in front of Daniel Hunter. So I think that gap now, Luke, might be a little bit too big.
Yeah, but again, around a circuit such as this, it depends where these two would battle for position. I think if you're Ferris Stanley right now, you've got to be clever. I don't, like you said, the gap is huge now. It is a case of, yes, about 3.4 seconds. You could easily take half a second off a lap now. Maybe even give up a second now. Give up a second to the car in front and just make sure you get into that top 3. Make sure that you're qualifying through. But turning a race driver, or like turning yourself off, taking it down a notch as a racing driver just isn't a thing, unfortunately, for these drivers. They don't have that ability, so it is kind of racing, as you said, balls to the wall from start to finish. And right there, I think Ferris might have just taken a little bit off there through Maggotts and Beckett's. He's definitely slowed down. Well, the lights are flashing here, so that's an indication of I really want you to make a mistake. I'm trying to make you think of other things. I don't like the lights flashing. You see it in the real world of motorsport. You see it in sim racing. It is really just to get the driver in front of you thinking about anything other than hitting his braking points and his turning points and his throttle points, really. So
that's why they haven't got those lights in Formula E. Because in electric cars, you flash your lights and it actually loses you a bit of power. Lol.
Yeah, that's it. You just do half a race.
It's all tactical. You flash your lights too much, you run out of gas on the last lap.
Excuse me, mate, you left your lights on. Oh no, it's a Formula E car. That's it. That's the season over.
That's a stop-go penalty right there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, as it stands, Connor Davis, I think Ferris Stanley is playing to the strength of the situation here. They're a fair old chunk of change ahead of P4. Don't really need to do anything more than stay in P3. I think this is the clever play. It may be boring, but boring is successful. Boring gets you through to the semi-finals. You fight another day. You know, next week you can absolutely throw your car into corners and make something happen. Don't need to do that today. Get that top 3, take your medicine, move on.
I think also former P4 here, Daniel Hunter, might actually have a little bit of damage as well, because he's now fallen 3 seconds behind Winrar Taruna, by the way, which is that, considering he was comfortably in P4 with a little bit of a gap just 2 laps ago. I feel like he's struggling a little bit here. Sadly, that might be his race run. The question will now be whether or not he has enough points in the bag to potentially make it through to the semi-final that way. He's already now being caught by Barbara behind him.
Yeah, is something happened between the two?
I think Hunter had an off, and that allowed Taruna to take
Right.
P4. But I don't know if it was those 2 cars coming together, or whether Hunter simply had an off all on his own. We didn't actually catch that on camera, but something definitely happened.
So you got to, again, you got to give the credit there to Ferris Stanley, because quite easily could have settled for staying in front of Hunter and just defend from Hunter, just position the car in the correct place. But he hasn't. He's moved forward. I tell you what, he's not only moving forward, he's going for the overtake here. Oh, there is contact between the two. This is exactly what he didn't want. And Davis then, I think, is just backed out there thinking, do you know what? You can come through and have that position. It was very scrappy in the end. It was very neat on entry. It wasn't so good on exit. I think Stanley could have had an opportunity to pull out there. I think, if that was to be happening again, if Stanley could have that opportunity back, as much as he got the overtake, he wouldn't have gone for it again, I don't think. That was very close to them both, because contact in ACC, once you have contact with another car, the whole downforce and the weightlessness of the car, you just so easily lose it. So if he has that situation back again, I don't think he takes it on. Davis, again, you've got to, if you're Stanley, think Davis has got nothing to lose here. Like, Davis is already through to the semi-finals. By the way, 6 seconds now is the lead for Ryan Houlihan. He is absolutely, it's going to be like that half a second a lap kind of average time here. And anybody that might be already qualified for our semi-finals and you watch him right now, Houlihan's making a statement here. And absolutely, the next 7 days should be used for getting as many laps as you can in possible. Take it very, very seriously, because Ryan Houlihan is in the form of his life right now and absolutely flying here at Silverstone.
On board now with Ferris Stanley. There you can see some more data-driven insights powered by Splunk. Started in 3rd, managed to make that overtake into 2nd. Has dipped below the 158s in the race as well. So 157.997, literally just as the fastest lap there, and is now a full second ahead of Connor Davis, who is another 1.2 seconds ahead of Taruna, who is starting to catch P3. This could become a little bit interesting towards the end.
Yeah, Winrar Taruna currently in that P4. I've opened some WinRARs before on my computer. A WinRAR file.
How'd that go?
That's the first time I've ever seen that as a name. WinRAR. Have you never opened a WinRAR file?
Plenty. I've created them.
Right, there you go. It's just yeah. It's a very interesting name, that's for sure. Taruna in P4. Really hoping for a mistake here at this stage. I tell you, Davis, since being overtaken, do you know what? I completely didn't even think this was going to be a possibility that the front 3 could be caught. Winrar Taruna is on an absolute charge here, and since Davis has been overtaken, he might have a little bit of damage to the car as well, because it's definitely contact. maybe Taruna has an opportunity of getting into that top 3 in qualifying.
There's definitely the chance if Connor Davis, I mean, we've seen a couple of minor mistakes that Connor Davis made under pressure when Ferris Stanley was following him. So if Taruna gets within striking distance and Connor Davis is feeling the pressure, absolutely Taruna could be in with a straight ticket, a golden ticket into the semi-final. So close yet so far with 1 second left to go. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I believe we're basically on the penultimate lap now. Taruna has got time to make this stick, but I get never mind. Ice skating, hello.
Yeah, big mistake there. Unfortunately, just got crossed up in steering. Just turned in with a little bit too much power. Just going a little bit too fast there. And the rear just steps out. Good save, don't get me wrong. That, normally that's off into the wall and that's your race over. So it's a really, really nice save. But ultimately, I think that might be the final nail, unfortunately, to the race today. It looks like Hunter's now been caught by Barbara, and now Morgan. So Joseph Morgan's closing up. You'll see the 3 cars in the background. So Davis then, who was being caught in seed, by the way, Ferris Stanley now 1.7 seconds clear of Connor Davis. I might actually would say that might be even bigger than 1.7 seconds at this point. Houlihan, though, what a drive from Ryan Houlihan, and looks very strong going into our semi-finals. Again, it seems like we're starting to see the genuine picture now. We're starting to see who are really the favourites moving forward in the championship. Was there anybody in the woodwork that were waiting for the last opportunity to maybe come in and just, start from right at the end, not have to put all of the graft in, try and finish in the top 3? We've seen everyone show their hands now in terms of qualifying. And Houlihan, well, he's got 2 aces in his hand, that's for sure. He is absolutely flying. And he's got to be a worry for everybody else in this championship, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Ryan Houlihan here, a little bit more chilled out. That gap, he doesn't look like he's driving on the ragged edge either, just to get, half a second a lap ahead of everyone. He seems pretty chill. A little bit of correction on the wheel, but nothing he can't handle. The car looks perfectly in control. And, a minor mistake here and there, but really just relaxing and coasting at this point. He's driven such a fantastic race, and I can't wait to see what he can bring to the semi-final.
Yeah, I think it's going to be dubs, just dubs, pure dubs for Ryan Houlihan moving forward in this championship. I don't think he deals in any other currency at this stage. It's been a very, very strong performance. Again, pressure off maybe a little bit because Bakida's not here. But that can also bring its own pressure as well, because he's expected, as a commentator, I've quite clearly gone out there and said he's expected to deliver here. He's actually gone and done that. That's the main thing. The main thing is that, there's one thing saying it, and there's one thing me predicting it, but he's actually gone out there and done it. That is huge. That is absolutely huge, and his confidence is going to be sky high for sure.
And rightly so. Philip Bakita is also going to be looking on and going, hang on a second. Houlihan decimates the field by how much now? And, they're friends, but they're also rivals. And Houlihan has done an absolutely tremendous job here, no doubt about it. Lights to flag. Still, of course, got half the lap to go, but I have a feeling that Houlihan will be able to comfortably take this in stride and grab the victory, even slowing down slightly, allowing Ferris Stanley to grab a little bit of time, but nowhere close to enough on the last lap. An absolutely imperious performance.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Again, we're talking about someone winning the race with, still corners to go as we come down the Wellington Straight for that very final time. High beams on the car, of course. We've got now 3 corners remaining, grabbing some curb on entry through the left-hander here again, just stepping onto the AstroTurf ever so slightly, making sure that there's no mistakes in terms of the weight transfer here. Still on the absolute limit. There's nothing really being taken off by Houlihan. Really wants that big gap. Makes a nice wide exit around the final corner. We will come. And well, monthly final number 5 of the Logitech McLaren G Challenger. Lights are flashing for Houlihan. He's made a statement moving on to the semi-finals, and maybe, just maybe, the new favourite in this competition.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely delightful watching this at the end. I'm looking forward to the semi-finals next week already. Ryan Houlihan wins from Ferris Stanley and Connor Davis in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge APAC sports car race here, month number 5. There are no more opportunities to qualify for the semi-finals, ladies and gentlemen. You've had the best part of half a year. That is it. And Ryan Houlihan manages to grab his 2nd win of the season there, en route to a fantastic showing. is that maybe a message perhaps to Philippa Bikita to say, guess what? The show's not about you because I'm right up there as well.
Absolutely. Why not? You know, you can be as great friends as you want. You're not here to come second to your friend, though. You know, at the end of the day, you want your friend to be congratulating you on being a champion. Ultimately, if it doesn't go that way, then you will be the first person to go, well done, congratulations, you deserve it, but you're certainly not there to finish in second place. That was an important win there for Houlihan because, like you rightly said, this competition, especially in the APAC region, because of the coverage that Philippa's been getting, it almost, you know, the weight falls onto Bikita as the clear favourite. You know, everybody's backing Philippa to go and win this competition. Houlihan had the chance here to make a statement and duly delivered that statement, and moving forward in this championship, moving forward into next week's semi-finals, I'm delighted for him because that must be quite difficult.
Yes.
Obviously he's had his interview as well with us, but you know, knowing that your friend's getting all of this support, there's, you know, maybe everyone's kind of expecting her to go out and win the whole thing, and suddenly it's like, well, hold on, maybe there's a chance for me here. You know, what have I got to do here to showcase that actually I am the real deal? And well, I think we've seen that here today at Silverstone.
A really interesting battle as well for the last podium position. We didn't see swaps of positions late on in the race, of course, so Connor Davis did manage to securely hold on to that. But Taruna had a good showing at the later stages of the race. And to be honest, in the first half, we had several drivers potentially putting themselves in position to contest that podium as well.
Yeah, it was, unfortunately, as motorsport does come down to, it comes down to pace. There was a lot of people there with a lot of heart. They were giving it absolutely everything. People left it all out at Silverstone. That's the minimum we expect from these drivers. We even saw it from P2 and P3 with Davis and Stanley. They did give it everything. They were, you know, not too worried about the repercussions of any potential incidents, which is what we want to see at this stage. Like, you've come this far. Maybe it's your first time, maybe it's your fifth time. Like, if you're not making or taking chances to get yourself into that semi-final, you shouldn't be in this competition at all. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our final results here for the sports car discipline at Silverstone, sponsored by Splunk. Ryan Houlihan, Ferris Stanley, and Connor Davis will walk away with trophies from the podium. We then have Winra Taruna, Daniel Hunter, and Guy Barbara, and Joe Morgan, followed by Sai Prithvi, Ilham Shak, and Alex Millwood, making up your top 10. And of course, 10th place still grabbing 20 potentially valuable points. We'll be doing the number crunching after the end of the stream to work out who has gotten in to the semi-finals. After that, Jake Baldwin and Matthew McEwen will finish 11th and 12th. Reagan Herbert, Jeff Newton, Sam Budgen, Nigel Chua, and Rico Grand, Wunsun Lee, and Pichang Sai will make up our 19 drivers who contested this race. So a minimum of 11 points going to all of these drivers. How many of those points, though, will be important to making somebody's place in the semi-finals? We can only find out after the end of the stream today once we've worked all of that out. But here was that race. An excellent start from the front drivers, and Stanley, good start, but covered off there by Connor Davis to begin with. A delightful race. I mean, it's a little bit uneventful, I suppose, but maybe good racing just straight up looks like that sometimes, Luke. And this was fantastic, from lights to flag from Houlihan.
Yeah, Stanley got lucky really at the start there because he had to check up with the front two because he was a little bit faster and lost a bit of time. But luckily Hunter was actually battling with a car behind through Maggots and Beckett. So yeah, then runs off circuit and manages to just filter in ahead of Hunter. So if Hunter wasn't battling side by side through Maggots and Beckett, I feel like Hunter would have been in P3. So here's the move then from Stanley again. Didn't need to do this. And oh, yeah, he was fully alongside. So, again, would he have taken that back? Probably not. Looking at it a second time there, the move was fully done. I think Davis has turned in maybe a little bit too early. Stanley hasn't managed to get the car stopped perfectly, but I don't think there really is such thing as a perfect overtake in the world of motorsport, if I'm being completely honest. This is where Taruna was absolutely flying, but something had to give eventually. When you're pushing as hard as you are pushing, sometimes you just go beyond the tyres limits, and that was very much that happening there. Taruna, of course, then dealing with the recovery really well, but it was all about Houlihan. Houlihan absolutely dispatching the field, and duly deserves his win today.
So that was the sports car race here at APAC. Absolutely delightful stuff. Now, of course, we had the stock car and open wheel earlier on in the evening. Let's just give you guys a little bit of a quick rundown of what happened there if you're just tuning in. First of all, the stock car race. Matt Danson made it 5 from 5 from Graham Bunyan and Stuart Anderson as he cemented the victory there and definitely makes himself one of the front runners globally heading into the semi-finals and potentially the grand finals. He's still got that hurdle to overcome, of course, before we get to that stage. James Scott, Darren Robb, Connor Healy, and Matthew Smith alongside Isaac Nichols will make up the top 8. Behind them, we have Peter Jones, Stephen Butcher, Jeff Newton, Michael Berta, Craig Corbett, Barry Neal, and Max Riley. That is your top 15. And then making up the rest of the field, we have Wade Sheedy, Reese McGillivray, Reynaldi Edo, and Yuki Furuya, who managed to grab valuable points despite a very, very busy incident-packed Daytona International. We then moved on, of course, to the open wheel section, where Jaden Ladich, absolutely fantastic victory there at Interlagos. Hayata Asaga about a second and a half behind him, with James Scott last gas podium position ahead of Jared Sirkovich there. Jackson Starrett, who made a lightning start, finished in P5 with the number 555 car. Connor Healy right behind him. And then we have Matt Danson, Bruce Long, Matt Bereswell, and Jay Brazier making up the top 10. Behind them, Ryan Smith, Ryan DeCartier McCarthy, Adrian Windmill, Jeff Newton, and Jonathan Eaton. Absolutely delightful stuff there. 16th and 17th, of course, still taking home valuable points. Phil Blackburn and Peter Bossens in the open wheel. So that was the results from earlier on in the evening, though. But right now, it is all about sports car and our winner, Ryan Houlihan. First of all, Ryan, congratulations. Thank you for joining us after the race. A delightful victory. And one has to wonder, at the end of the day, Philippa Bakita, not in this lobby, your friend and your teammate. You didn't have to worry about battling it out with Bakita for the lead, but you properly took the race into your own hands. How was it different without Philippa here?
Yeah, I don't know. It was good. It was a bit easier for me, not having to fight with her at the front. So as long as I got turn 1 good, it was pretty comfortable for me at the front.
Again, like to shadow what John just said. Congratulations, a stellar performance. And it must be amazing. Of course, you've been a very big support act, being friends with Philippa and Philippa with you. You know, obviously you congratulate each other on all of your performances, and there's a lot of coverage for Philippa and probably goes into the semi-finals as a favorite. How important was it today to really send a statement? Maybe that wasn't in your intentions, but how important was it today to not only win, but win comfortably today, moving forward to next week?
I don't know. It's just a bit of fun, I guess. Yeah, she's definitely the favorite for the finals, so I just gotta come in here and just do well, get some more practice with the car, and get ready for the semis.
Well, congratulations once again, Ryan. Is it very much business as usual heading into the semi-finals, or are you going to be doing anything differently now that you know that the entire field is composed of those podium finishes and those top drivers?
Probably a bit more practice once we get to know the tracks. It'll be good, bit of a grind, and hopefully make the finals.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much, Ryan Houlihan. Congratulations once again, of course, moving straight through to the semifinals. We already knew that, but an absolutely dominant second win of the season there. So, Luke, an absolutely wonderful day of racing throughout APAC and EMEA earlier, of course. Closing thoughts on the very eventful races that we've seen today.
Yeah, as much as Ryan looks all laid back there, I think he sent a statement today. I really do. I think going into next week's semi-finals, I actually think that Ryan Houlihan is the favourite to go and win this title now from that performance there today. I really do. I just think 6 seconds against that field, no one's been able to really stretch that kind of lead out. And a circuit like Silverstone, where slipstream is a huge advantage, you know, well, let's say advantage, everyone's got it, but like it's a huge factor, and still able to pull that lead out. I do genuinely believe that Ryan Houlihan does go in his favourite. But I also would say over the course of both broadcasts today, a lot of new names that instantly go up to the top tier and potentially champions of their respective regions, potentially champions of the whole thing. I feel like that monthly finals 5 so far has just taken us up a big notch.
The semi-finals are certainly going to be shaken up. A lot of names now joining. The drivers already confirmed there via the podium finishes earlier on in the season. We're going to be doing a little bit of number crunching after the end of the stream to work out who's going to be joining them as far as points are concerned as well. But that is it for the monthly round races here at the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. A huge thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for allowing us to put on this program. Make sure you tune in tomorrow because we've got LATAM and North America still to go. The action's only at the halfway point, and my God, what action it has been this weekend at the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. We look forward to welcoming you back onto stream tomorrow as we get started with the second half of the weekend.